Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest with me here today. Here on the channel, it is going to be our edition of One Piece YouTubers review, discuss, react, and fanboy over Square Enix latest installment, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Joining me here today is Artur, aka Library of O'Hara. How are you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm ready to discuss some big fiction and big gaming.
That's right. That's right, dude. I have to thank Artur because while I was going through the game, there was several people that I was DMing and discussing because I didn't know where they were and stuff. And I have to I have to give thanks to Artur because he trusted me with the both me sending a bunch of spam over on his end and him sending spam on my end. Like, so it was a great experience.
Yeah, I feel like experiences like this are a lot more fun when you share them, stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, like,
For sure.
when I heard you were excited about this game, it's like, I gotta talk to him about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. It's I feel like this game captured the anticipation for this game. Obviously, we were all really excited based on how much we enjoyed Remake, and the anticipation for that I feel like was the most excited I'd ever been for a video game. But the excitement for this, like I was talking to AJ about it before it released. I feel like my anticipation for Rebirth, especially after the trailers, knowing the content that was about to go into it, that I was more excited for this one than like any game in history. So for it, it's kind of like whenever you're going into a new One Piece chapter, coming off of a crazy cliffhanger, you know, and you have all these theories, and you can't wait to see what happens, and it delivered. It actually delivered.
I mean, for me, like, my whole experience with both the Remake and Rebirth has been, like, nothing short of a legitimate roller coaster, because, to sort of put it into quick context, I mean, FF7 is, like, my favorite game of all time.
Same.
I first played it in 2015. Well, I remember distinctly was the Zoark, was when, like, Jack was appearing, and I think it was, like, after Cloud was added to Smash, I just gave it a shot on an emulator, and I was just enraptured by it. I completely fell in love. Like, I think it's like one of the few times in my life where I felt like just for the duration of that, I forgot One Piece even existed. You know, it was just like I was ascending playing that game originally. And so obviously, you know, like that was like shortly after the Remake was announced. I was like very excited for Remake. And like those like 5 years, especially like you remember like when we heard like nothing about the game for like 4 years straight.
Yeah, dude.
It was painful. I was just the anticipation like, oh my god, is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? How is it even gonna look like really? You know, and then when Remake came out, I was like really worried at first. I was kind of anxious, like, oh my god, I hope they don't screw it up. But then like playing through it, it was just like it just reawakened that magic from the original. You know?
Sure.
I was really glad. But the thing is that, you know, with full transparency, when I got to the end of Remake, I was among the people that felt very conflicted about the ending because, you know, obviously I don't mind like the idea of like changing stuff or like adapting stuff like in different ways, like, you know, like something like the One Piece live action did, and like in the same way that I feel even Rebirth and Remake themselves have changed like a lot of the story and a lot of the structure. But I felt like a bunch of the things that they tried to kind of introduce with the whole multiverse thing, it wasn't even just the fact that they were like complicating the story or just adding new elements and stuff like that, but I felt like some of those like really conflicted with some of the core like narrative values that FF7 had. And so because of that, I was feeling a bit conflicted because, you know, like I loved this game so much, like I had such a passion for it and it awakened so much, and like it was still legitimately such an incredible experience, but I was worried because it did slightly ruin like some moments of Remake for me, and more than anything I was worried like with the way they were sort of marketing it, that Rebirth was gonna be like this but like way more, you know, like they're gonna like change things massive. It's gonna be like a rebuild more than like a remake at that point, you know, like they also kind of marketed with the name of Rebirth and everything, and you know, it's like I'm down to kind of see what direction this goes in, but a part of me just kind of wanted like something that could recapture the magic of that original game and be a bit more of a faithful remake. So all the way leading up to Rebirth, I think especially with all the trailers that kind of seem to suggest more of this, I was like a bit cautiously optimistic. Like I wanted to be high, but I was worried about all that stuff. And then, by the time that Rebirth came out, also having been like 10 years since we had been waiting since like the Artur remake, I was like, I don't know, I was a bit emotionally conflicted. I was almost kind of like a bit checked out because it was difficult to really like invest in this. And I knew obviously I was going to play and beat the game, but I wasn't sure if like it really would connect with me. But it's like, man, oh my God, they nailed it, right?
Yeah,
and like the thing is like, I think the best thing that I can say is that personally, I still find the multiverse stuff to be like kind of silly and kind of forced in. But at the same time, it feels like in this game, they put a really big effort into making it as non-intrusive as possible. Like it's there, and the fans that are interested in all the multiverse stuff can still like enjoy that, but it doesn't like interfere with like any of the original scenes. It's very like segmented in a way where like the original scenes are sort of like treated with like a lot of faithfulness to the original, and like without like sort of just awkwardly meshing them together like remake. And it feels like they really listen to feedback to both make like a perfect, like, accurate, like, reimagining of FF7 and also, like, the new stuff in a way that is just, like, I just feel like I can't complain anymore. Like, this is the remake that we all dreamed about,
100%.
like, back then. And that's basically, like, it's been a bit of an ups and downs and stuff, but remake was still such an amazing experience, but, like, Rebirth just blows it out of the water. This is, like, one of the best gaming experiences I've had in, like, so long.
Yeah, no, I echo a lot of those sentiments. I'm on the side that I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the timeline stuff and all that, mainly because it is so exciting. It is so like, where are they going to take this? Are they going to keep the original story intact? How much are they going to change? All of that stuff was so intriguing to me, especially during the theory crafting process of those 4 years waiting between the end of Remake going into this game. But a big part of my love of the original game is, like you said, could have been lost due to a lot of these changes. And I'm glad that both on remakes and here, they've emphasized on quite a few of my favorite aspects of the original game that are clearly still here. And so I think what I want to do is, for the individuals who have not finished the game, let's give our spoiler-free overall thoughts, and then we're going to go all full-blown spoilers. So so let me go ahead and ask you first your overall spoiler-free thoughts on Rebirth as an experience. You can go in depth into like gameplay or story, whatever. And then as well, are you more excited for Part 3 now that you've finished Rebirth, or is it sort of like on the same thing of, I just can't wait to see how this concludes? Let me know your overall thoughts on FF7 Rebirth. Spoiler free.
Okay. I'll jump to the second question first, and I'll say absolutely I'm more excited now because, like I said, the problem that I felt after beating Remake is like, okay, on one hand, they've got such a good grasp on like this story, characters, gameplay, and everything that like, like Part 2 should be like a guaranteed amazing game. But the fact that they were seemingly teasing it as a rebuild, it's just that thing that kind of made me worry. Is like, oh no, like this could be amazing, but they could also just kind of make a big mess, because I felt, like at least personally, I felt that the narrative aspects of the multiverse in the first game were very messy, not necessarily in how they were executed, but in the way that I felt they kind of went a bit against like some of the core elements of the story. Gotcha. Like FF7 is a story about life and death, like characters die, and like that is something that you have to deal with. So like, oh, now this character is alive in an alternate timeline and stuff like that. It just, it's kind of like if in One Piece, it's like, oh, let's bring this dead character back in like a parallel timeline or something. I feel like it kind of takes one of those core things, But with Rebirth, I don't know if like maybe they heard a lot of the feedback and so they decided to scale it back, or maybe they just promoted it confusingly in a way they did, and this was like the intention all along, but it just shows me to me like, oh no, the whole plan is to just make a faithful remake and then just add this stuff on top for those that enjoy it, kind of like a cherry on top of the cake. And because of that, it's just, I really don't see a future where like part 3 ends up being like a rebuild where they scrap everything. I think it's just like Rebirth. It's going to be very faithful and it's going to have more of this stuff. So it's like, it's a win-win for everyone, right? Whereas I feel like with the remake, it was just a bit of a mixed thing. So like now, like I feel like for once, it's like, okay, I'm confident they're going to nail part 3. Because if they just make it as good as this without improving anything, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be big.
Yeah,
but like
100%.
they can probably listen to feedback and like even improve some of the small flaws that like Reaper had. So it's like, man, I'm all here for it.
Right.
In terms of like overall thoughts for the game, for me, it's like, man, what an experience.
Mm-hmm. From beginning to end, bro. From like
beginning
literally
yeah.
from the introduction until the closing credits. It's
Dude.
man, dude.
It's like, I want to say it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's like a very good, interesting experience, the gameplay and everything, but it's just like, I'm just like, man, I look back at it and it's like, wow, what a journey, you know. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, it has felt like one of the most like special like gaming journeys that I've had in like so long. To me, like I feel the only game that kind of has matched this in recent years for me is Octopath Traveler 2, which I played last year, and to me that was like one of the best like gaming experiences I had as well, because it like it reawakened like some of the love I had like that I felt like during the original FF7, because it just kind of crafts this like massive beautiful world that you get to explore. But like aside from that, you know, it's like I can't think that many games that were just like an experience. I look back at it after, I'm like wow, I'm gonna be thinking about this for like a long while, right? And it's even crazy because it's like, I already knew what was going to happen in the story. This is already like characters and worlds and places that I've already visited, but they still just hit so hard. You know, it's difficult to really quantify, I think, a game like this, because it's, you know, it's an experience that is so dear to my heart, right? It's not like just getting into like any new game. It's just every character, every NPC, every location is just the type of stuff where like, it just it is so close to my heart, and getting it, like seeing it all adapted, changed, evolved, even being very different, but with so much like love, care, and respect. It's kind of like, I think, what a lot of us felt with, you know, with the One Piece live action. You know, it's like, oh, this is very different, but it has that like spirit there, and it's just the level of like faithfulness and care that they went into changing, into like adapting some things was just so amazing to see. You know, it's like there's like, obviously there's like larger story segments that have been like altered or shifted around, you know, some arcs were shifted around from place or they were structured a bit differently, but then there's like the NPC from the original game has now been turned into a full minigame, and it's just like, this is amazing. There's so many moments like those, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just an experience as a whole, you know. It's like, it's again, I feel like it's such an amazing, it does the fantastic thing that I think it captures the real strength that FF7 has always had, and what I think has always made that game ahead of its time, which is like use story and gameplay in tandem
100%.
to give an experience that like nothing else can. You know, the original FF7 uses, for example, gameplay to evoke emotions in you.
Yes.
You know, like there's some points in like Remake and Rebirth, for example, where like the game just wants you to just think, and so it's gonna make you walk through like an area with just music in the background and just taking the emotions. It just does that so excellently well. And you know, it's there's always things that I can like end up comparing between the two and stuff. I do still have some problems with Rebirth and the way it's structured and everything, because like I think that one of the beauties of the original FF7 is how it was this sort of like almost kind of like Elden Ring, you know, type of like game where like it doesn't tell you a lot of things, you just kind of discover a lot of things very organically. And you know, that leads to some missed content, which I get like some people maybe a bit upset about, but it's like also a lot of that missed content isn't like required for completion or anything. There's just like random things. Like sometimes you can just go to a corner of a world and like kind of find like a random boss and stuff like that. And I feel that's something, for example, that I really love from like Octopath, because I think like it's just one of those, just it lets you into the world and you just kind of figure things out on your own. Whereas like Rebirth felt much more hand-holdy. Like every puzzle was like super easy. there was always like a perfect counter for like everything. The same with the overworld, like there's the markers and stuff, and I would have liked some more, just discovery, which was kind of part more of the original game. But like I also understand, it's a different era. Gaming is sort of built a bit different. There's also kind of like the need to appeal to like different type of people that prefer something that is easier to follow. And I will admit as well, it's very comfortable to be able to 100% this game without needing like a guide to make sure you're not missing anything and stuff like that. So, I mean, I believe we both went for like at least the base game 100%.
Oh, for sure.
At least to some extent, yeah.
I just because I enjoyed it so much that every area, I did not leave an area without 100%ing it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Same. I mean, I'm a bit of a completionist. Like, I have a bit of a completionist OCD. So like, the game was just like, it was both completionist heaven and also completionist hell. Because like, damn, it's all those minigames.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I got the stars on the piano minigame, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I heard that for the piano minigame, before you continue, the piano minigame is actually a little different if you play it on performance or graphics. So like on graphics mode, you can actually miss a few of the notes, even if you hit it at the right time. But on performance, it's like picture perfect accurate. So if anyone out there is struggling with the piano minigame and you're on graphics, just switch it to performance.
I am easier. Finally realizing it. I'm like, oh god, I spent 3 hours on two legs, nothing to it.
Yep.
That was infernal. The thing about completion, I'll just say, it's just that I feel a bit conflicted now because on one hand, it's like I've 100% of the base game. I've done anything you can, and I would be just hard mode and the extra challenges on top of that. Yeah. But I think it's like, to me, like FF7 is an experience. I feel like almost kind of the whole point of the game is that it's an experience that you have and then it's just over, and it's just you cope with the loss that this adventure is over. The whole message of FF7 is that, you only get to live once, and then, it's like at a certain point in life or certain experiences in life are over, and then when you realize that it's just, you maybe never thought in the moment, it's like, wow, like I'm going to miss this, but then you feel that afterwards, and it's like, it's such an emotion that you can feel that there's almost like a certain beauty to things ending or losing things, and how that helps you grow. And to me, that's something that's kind of reflected in the original game and Rebirth as well, that it's like once you finish the experience, it's like, man, it's over, it's gone, like I'm never going to get this first experience again. So because of that, I don't know if I feel like replaying the game on hard mode, because I feel it would kind of go against that. At the same time, that's like, man, I need more of this game.
Right.
I'm like addicted. So I feel a bit conflicted in that regard.
Yeah. It's so on my end, I just piggybacking off what you said, because I'm in the middle of my hard mode playthrough, and I feel like every single thing that I've experienced it's kind of like any of your favorite pieces of media, where when you revisit them, it feels like it's better the second time than it would be the first. And I feel the same way about this one. And that first playthrough was the greatest thing I've ever experienced. I put this all the way at the top. I've had the original FF7 as my favorite game for such a long time, but Rebirth captures my favorite aspects of that game so well that I had to put it over it. I feel like this is my favorite game of all time now.
I saw your tweet saying like, yeah, I just finished Rebirth. It's my favorite game of all time, and it's like, I would say recency bias, but like, nah, he's got a point.
Yeah, it's like because like I've been going through the original game too, and just to like remind myself of how I felt and stuff, right? And because one of the things that I said in regards to the experience was that whenever I was younger, I didn't really capture I didn't understand what FF7 was really trying to say until I got much older. When I was younger, I was like, yo, Cloud's cool. I love Tifa, Aerith, Barrett, and Red 13, my squad, and the mini games are awesome. It's a cool looking game, all that. And I feel like this game captures that side of the experience alongside the older version of myself that loves this game for its character interactions, for the themes, for its music, and so many different things that make the original FF7 such a masterpiece. And
how old were you when you first played FF7? If I can ask?
I was less than 10 years old, because
wow, okay.
it went from the PS1, no memory card, and then when so I'm telling you, like, I tell this story all the time.
Yeah.
When I would go to Shinra HQ, that was almost always like the end of the experience for me, because I would get to that point and have to restart, get to that point. I'll never forget the first time I ever saw outside of Midgar. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Such a thing exists? Which is why this game was so special.
I thought that Midgar was like the end of, like, Shinra headquarters was the end of the game as well.
Right.
I remember just stepping on that world, I was like, what?
Yeah,
it's such a magical moment. I mean, I played it at like age 17, so like I feel like a lot of the themes definitely hit a lot harder as well. But it's kind of the type of thing where, like, I feel like it's that sort of like generational work, kind of like One Piece, where it's like you can appreciate it as a kid and maybe not get a lot of the deeper themes, but still get the general like feeling of it and get the general message at its core. But then you can also experience it as an adult and be like, oh, so these things like meant even more about that.
Right. It's you nailed it exactly on the head, and I think that's what this game captures really well. Is similar to a One Piece. Whenever you're going through it at a younger age, you're like, man, this is really awesome. But whenever you're an adult, you're like, oh my god, this is why it's awesome, and that's what Rebirth captures.
Getting to re-experience these things and then just noticing like narrative nuances that you never realized is just like, wow.
Yes, and it's incredible. So in regards to Rebirth, there was a certain point whenever I got to chapter 5, you sort of are in this enclosed space. There's limited things to do, and I remember having the thought in my head where this is so good and I can't wait to get back to the open world. I never thought I would ever say that, because going into it, that was my biggest worry. Was I was like you, the open world is one of the things that really stood out to me from the original game. And so when that state of play happened and I saw the type of open world it was going to be, I was like, I wonder how they're going to do that, because it does sound like the type of checklisty open world thing that I'm not sure would work here. But it works so well. As a matter of fact, I think it's the best iteration.
I think it's because they balance it with the story.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I heard because today they released the episode 1 of Inside of Rebirth on the PlayStation channel, and they talked about how they focused on making sure there was enough balance between the main story and the open world section, to where when you were on one, you were craving the other. And I was like, that's genius. Yeah. That is so genius, 100%. And it makes for such an addicting gameplay loop, to where I loved playing the game, but I couldn't wait to get more of the story. And I think that's where the Elden Ring Breath of the Wild magic is in the character interactions and dynamics. Because even though the game most certainly will hold your hand when you get to that next destination, you have no idea what's waiting for you. Like when you first see what the Fort Condor mini game is here, that is one of those magical experiences that come out of left field.
I did not play episode Yuffie until this game. Actually, I beat it in the middle of my playthrough, but I did not, so I wasn't aware how they did for Condor. So I kind of had the same surprise, and like even similarly, like I didn't look at a lot of like pre-material aside from like a couple trailers, because it's just like my expectations were so over the place that I was just like, look, I just want to experience it blind. So I remember just stepping out into like the grass, and it's like, oh wait, like this is like open world. I thought like it was just gonna be like limited areas like FF16, you know, and it's like, oh no, this is like
it's
like
a big world, but open world.
But it kind of creates that like almost like like more than like being structured like something like Breath of the Wild or whatever, like it feels more structured like a Persona game, right, where you switch between these like two styles of gameplay back and forth, and like you said, it's just you're always craving the other in a sense.
Great analogy. That's a great comparison.
And I think that kind of really helped. That like I think my final time in my first playthrough, because I did everything and I wasted like a lot of time just wandering around, just admiring the world. I had 150 hours.
Yep.
And
Same here.
yeah. And like the thing is, like I never felt burnout on the gameplay itself. The only thing that I felt burnout on was, okay, maybe some of the older hard mini games, but also just emotionally, because it was just it was so many emotions at the end. I was like, okay, let me take like a couple of days off, you know. And the thing is, like, I've played this game for like a month straight, and I think that I only took like one day off.
Oh, gotcha.
Like that's it. Every other day I was just playing like the majority of the day, and then by the end I was just like, I was like a bit like overwhelmed, but like in the best way possible, you know.
Right. You bringing up the grasslands, that's when I really knew that this experience was going to be special. When you first go out and you have that opening the door, it's kind of like the Fallout when you leave the vault and you see it for the first time. And when you have that moment in this game and you hear the characters interacting with each other, and you see how the On Our Way is playing from calm to the grasslands, and then in battle. It's stuff like that makes this game so special. Like those little interactions, the focus on music and on certain elements. Like, bro, one of the best songs in the game is in a side quest.
Bow wow wow,
in
bow,
Under
wow,
Junon. Bow wow wow, bow
you
wow,
know
wow.
it.
Like,
you know
dude,
it, man.
This is crazy. Like,
I love that we all both thought of the same song at the same time.
Bro, it goes so hard. I was listening to it before we started this, man. I was like, this is insane.
The soundtrack is literally inhuman, because it's like, it's literally half the size of the Smash Ultimate soundtrack, which just like blows my mind. It's like over 400 songs. It's insane. Like, there are I think that's like one of the most like incredible things about this game is just the sheer amount of like unique assets. Like,
yeah, man.
You get like an NPC for a side quest and they have a completely unique model, you know, like there's a completely unique song, there's like a completely unique enemy, a completely unique voice lines at cutscenes for like just the side quest, you know, like the fact there's so many areas and stuff. I don't know how the hell they developed this in 4 years. I feel like that's like wizardry, man.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the original game, where the original game feels like a bunch of different. It was a bunch of different engines, a bunch of different games in one game. That's how Rebirth is, just in 2024.
Exactly. I mean, like the crazy thing about like FF7 the original is just like all the amount of like backgrounds, areas, enemy models, so many things. Like there are so many things. Like thing is, like I've never 100%ed the original FF7, which is something I would like to do. And it's just crazy to me that just like even replaying it now, like I did for Rebirth, it's like I'm discovering enemies I never knew existed in this game. I'm like, oh, like I've never seen this character model. Right? There's just so much to this game, or like secrets that I never knew were the thing, or like hidden items and stuff. It's just, and I feel like Rebirth kind of recaptures part of that. It's just like seeing the sheer side,
When I was gonna say when you bring up that like the amount of different enemy designs and monsters, like I can't even tell you the amount of times that I went out into the open world and started fighting a boss or a random enemy, and I would literally see in my head how it looked like on the PS1 and what it looked like now, and like
I was like, oh, it's that
yes, it's like it's that thing. Like for me, who spent a lot of time like grinding chocobos and stuff, I was in the open world a lot, so I would run into a lot of these enemies quite often. So that was one of my favorite things of this experience, was seeing like, oh my goodness, that thing is actually here, and it looks it looks way better than I could have ever imagined. It's crazy,
bro. When I went, I was in Costa del Sol and I was looking for like the egg enemy, and I was like, why is it not here? And then I see it's like, oh, it's the egg.
Yep.
I'm just hoping, that they add the Triceratops tank in part 3.
Oh,
because I was missing him in
Yes.
Gongaga.
Yep. Great point. And similar to like they did with Hell House in the original, I
Yeah.
feel like they're going to do that with a lot of different enemies, where they're going to
Yeah.
put them in a different place and make them shine much brighter. Before we go into the spoiler section, I wanted to ask you about some of the things that you were talking about there, just a little more in depth. How did you feel about the way that they handled the characters in this game? In regards to obviously the original game has a cast that is beloved by so many, but here, just like in Remake, they carefully crafted each individual character to have their own arc. Every single member of the main cast that is playable has their own journey that they go through in this game, and the way that connects to the side content. Just how did you feel about that before we go into the spoiler stuff?
Sorry. I feel for starters, like I'd say, like starting off with Remake, I felt that Remake did this so well. I think that was like one
100%.
of the things that surprised me the most about Remake is just like, oh wow, they get these characters. Because the thing is, it's like I feel that a lot of like post FF7 media just didn't get a lot of these characters. I feel like that's a kind of common criticism, and like Advent Children, for example, I know a lot of people love it, and I think that as a movie it is like very cool visually. But personally, like Advent Children, just the way that they treated some of the characters just felt like really out of character. Like making like Cloud more like emo and stuff, and I mean, like I feel that's a horse that's already been beaten a lot. But with Remake instead, it's just like, oh my god, they get these characters fundamentally, and it's a complicated thing as well because it's like I'm sure that your own interpretations of these characters can like depend a lot on your own personal experience. I feel
point.
that the original game lacking a lot of visual emotion because of the graphics and the poor localization and sometimes like certain details sort of like missing here and there and stuff. And there was a lot of reading between the lines, and I think that's kind of helped us expand our interpretations, where I've seen like some people maybe have slightly different interpretations of some characters. But I feel like with Remo, it's just the type of thing where like they felt a bit more defined, and there were like some aspects that I always interpreted about these characters that maybe weren't there, but they felt so much like those characters. And I think in Rebirth, in great part, I feel that's even better expanded, and I think that's done even better. But if I can say, I do have a couple of small exceptions, and unfortunately, and I feel a bit conflicted about this. I wasn't completely sure with how they did Aerith. I thought she was done really well, but I feel like there were a couple aspects of her character from the original that I feel didn't get to shine as well. Because I feel like, at least to me, and this is personal interpretation to be fair.
Right.
The whole point of Aerith's character is that she's someone who's like suffered a lot in her life for many things, but she always keeps this optimistic outlook on life because the people in her life give her strength to always, like shine that light in that, sorrow. She's almost someone kind of like Luffy, who's kind of like, even despite all the struggles, she's kind of able to bring that light. She's like the flower in the Steel City, metaphorically speaking. And I feel that Remake kind of captured that a lot. It showed that she has an inner conflict, but even in spite of that, she tries to stay very positive. Whereas I feel like in Rebirth, some of that like kindness and positivity of her character was, I don't know, it felt a bit more slightly missing to me in a way, and how that affected both Cloud and the other characters kind of being around her. And I feel like towards the end it was brought up a bit more, but I appreciate seeing like a more human side of her where we see her like suffering more. But I feel like a lot of time it's just kind of turned more like into moping rather than just sort of her kind of gaining her own strength, But I feel like it's something so difficult to quantify because it's such a personal thing and it's such a nuanced like amount of thing. It's not like saying like, oh, the controls just suck or something like that. It's just like I felt like there was just slightly something that was missing here. But I feel like it's so hard to kind of put into words, But then I feel like with other characters, for example, I feel like someone like Tifa was handled like so well, and I feel like they kind of showed a lot of her like emotional vulnerability, but also her strength in being able to overcome that like so well. Especially considering that Tifa doesn't like get as much into her story until like the third part. So it was really nice that in like the middle part of the story that wasn't as focused, they still fleshed her out so well. Again, the same thing with Barrett and like the way evolve. And like I think the absolute highlight for me has to be Yuffie, because like they improved her so much as a character. And she was always amazing. I always loved her. I always thought she was an amazing character. But it's like here it's just like we finally get to see like a lot more of that depth, a lot more of just she's just so much fun to be on screen, you know. Looks like I'm sure your mind will go to the point where she's like singing like Luffy, and I was like, man.
Oh yes,
game of the year.
One of my favorite sections,
yeah,
like
so
new
bored,
additions to this game.
So bored,
so
right
bored.
out of my mind. I like all I could think is like, man, she's literally just like Luffy.
Yeah. Nah, that like her and Kate Sith for sure were the ones that that like not shocked me, because I knew they were gonna get the remake treatment, but just how much I came out of this loving their characters. It was incredible.
I mean, I love I've always loved Kate Sith, and it's just like, man, I just love him even more her now.
For sure.
He's amazing. And I'm so glad that they kept the Scottish accent.
yeah. I was a little worried that they weren't gonna bring that back, but I'm glad they brought it back for sure. Yeah. So, going into it from a spoiler-free standpoint, because I want to talk about it.
Can I add one
Yeah,
more
go
thing
ahead.
about the characters?
Go ahead.
I also just want to give a big shout out, not just to the core cast, but like all the supporting characters, because it's like so many characters from the original were just improved in so many ways, and like even the NPCs were amazing. You know, it's like, man, it's just so many. I mean, like like I don't want to go much into detail, like because of spoilers and stuff. But like I remember, like even in the final like side quest, which is just like a dumb minigame thing, I kind of felt like emotional in the final cutscene. I was like, man.
No. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is insane what they've done with a lot of, like we talked about earlier, like the Chocobo Billies of the world and stuff of that nature. Like
Billy was so good.
Yeah,
that was like incredible. I felt so invested.
Insane what they did with those kind of characters from the original game, and the way that they were fleshed out in this one. Even the guy that, if you guys remember from Mount Coral, is like heavily expanded upon in this game. It's just from Fort Condor. There's just so many different things that this game has expanded upon, just in general, in regards to its character and to the characters and the story. It's insane. Just to talk a little bit about what you were saying earlier in regards to the characters and the way they were handled. That was one of my favorite parts about this game. And I'll talk about Aerith, because I feel like I can't talk about Aerith without getting into spoilers. Because Aerith was my favorite from the original, and I feel like I love her more in this rendition than I did in the original, but I can't talk about that without getting into spoilers. But I appreciate so much what this game did, specifically what Rebirth did, because Remake, I feel like, was probably the best rendition of any of these characters, from the Midgar section at least. Characters like Jesse, for example, I came to absolutely adore, and Wedge and Biggs, but even like the main core cast, I love them so much. I love what they did and continue to do with Barrett, Cloud, and Tifa, and everyone who is involved in the game. And Aerith in particular in that first game really stood out to me, because I was like, wow, as someone coming off of, and I always appreciated being able to see the way that she was in like something like Kingdom Hearts, for example, in 1 and 2. But there was certain aspects of her character that they didn't capture the same way that something like a Crisis Core captured, which I believe also did a really good job of capturing her and that importance to the story. But going back to Rebirth, I think what was so incredible about each and every single member of the main cast is that every single playable character has, at the very least, multiple moments, not by themselves and with the other party members, that just allow them to feel like a family. It's very, very Straw Hat-esque in regards to the moments that they have that allow them to progress forward as characters, where they need to deal with a situation on their own, but they also have so many, and I mean so many moments with the other members of the party that just enhance what they're going for with this game, which is that adventure aspect, down to the
Every
point
like
to where when you're in the
yeah,
out in like the
that's
grasslands or in Junon or whatever, you will see the other party members still fighting with you. Like, it's not just the core
yeah,
three.
that's
You'll see the
amazing.
other ones also fighting with you. But go ahead. What you were going to say?
Yeah, sorry. It was just that like I love that every party member has like a dynamic with several other party members, right? It's not
Yes.
just the dynamics they have with Cloud. Like
Right.
Aerith has a special dynamic with Red, with
Yep.
Yuffie, with Barret and Tifa. You know, it's not
Yep.
just one on each other. You know, it's like every character sort of has like that. Where like I love that the game just sometimes just like, okay, now you're gonna play as Cloud, Tifa, and Yuffie, but then you switch and you're playing as Kate, Aerith, and Barret, and they all kind of have their own dynamic, and it just feels so natural. Like I said, it's that strong hand dynamic where it's not like the cast is built around the main character, but it's the
Right.
cast is built off of each other, and that makes
Yep.
it feel so much more natural, so much more like a family, like you said.
Yep. And for anyone who is still early in the game that's listening to this, a good example of this would be right after the Nibelheim flashback in Chapter 1. Red 13 immediately jumps onto the bed, and Barrett is like, what are we doing here? Like, oh, get off my bed.
Yeah.
And Cloud's like, yo, just it's already his. Just go take another thing. And then
Yeah.
Tifa and Aerith have their own thing going on. It's like these are living, breathing characters to have relationships with each other that are clear as day, and how that evolves throughout the course of the game is just it's really, really well done, and that's my favorite
Something
aspect of the entire game, honestly.
something that like a friend of mine pointed out, which I didn't even think as much about it as well, but it's like I feel that to me in the original game, a lot of the relationships between the characters was something that I felt a lot, like the like in between the lines in a
Right.
sense, and I really like that personally. I do kind of enjoy that aspect. I feel like again, it's something I feel like something like Octopath does similarly. It's almost kind of like when you're reading a book and you're just imagining parts of it, you know, and it kind of helps you feel parts of it, and so because of that, I didn't mind as much. And something that I really really love from the original game is that in any area you could choose the team, and each team member had like unique dialogue that like was completely unique if you chose them for that part of the story. Like one thing in the original FS7, like it's just, like replaying, there was just a detail that I found so funny that when you do the CPR minigame in the original, if you have Red 13 in your party and you ask him to do CPR for you, he looks at you as like, I'm a dog. Right, and it's like that's completely unique only if you have him in your party.
Great
you know?
point. Great point.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But with this game, instead, obviously, it's all much more scripted, but with that, it allows to give that level of dialogue between the characters, and there's so much of it here
So much.
that is just like it's much more, you know, like defined, and it feels so much more expanded upon, and it's you can like experience so many more of these dynamics between the characters, and I think in a sense it's kind of like, you know, like for example, there are some things where I feel like I kind of prefer how the original Office Sound did this in a simpler way, but if anything, I can appreciate that Rebirth does it in a different way, because I feel like Rebirth almost is already committing to being such an
Yes.
expanded experience that I
Yes.
think they decided to double down on the expanded experience. And it's like, look, if you prefer some of the simplicity of the original, there's always the original game.
That's right.
But instead, like Rebirth is like, well, we're gonna like expand more of these things. Let's just go expand extra, right? And you know,
Right.
sometimes maybe, you know, some people might feel like that's like a lot of padding, which I felt a bit with Remake and a bit with Rebirth, but I feel like a lot of the padding in Rebirth felt a lot more organic. And it can feel like maybe, you know, especially if you play all these three games back to back, because I know some people say like, oh, wait until like the third game, play them back to
Right.
back. It's kind of like well, it's gonna be like an experience.
300
You're
hours
like-
of greatness.
Yeah, seriously, you're gonna like ascend at that point, you know. But it's
Yeah.
like, you know, in a sense, maybe this makes this game like less replayable for me personally than something like the original game and stuff like that. But that's not a bad thing, you know, because it's like it can also mean that like those experiences, like I feel like Remake and Rebirth are games that I'm gonna struggle replaying. Like this is more of a personal thing,
Gotcha.
but in exchange, those first playthroughs I had with each game were just like otherworldly.
Magical.
You know,
Yeah.
like magical, you know. And again, I feel like they sort of like play off of each other. And in that regard, for me, it's like, I like I wouldn't rank Rebirth on my like top 10 games of all time, because to me it's an expansion of FF7. You know,
Gotcha.
FF7 is my favorite game of all time, and Remake, Rebirth, and whatever's gonna be Reunion, it's gonna like those are just a version of that
I
game.
like that. I like that.
And it's all just, and again, it's just different ways to experience the same like magical experience to me.
It's the One Piece anime to the One Piece
Yeah,
manga.
exactly. You know, it's like, what do you prefer, the One Piece anime, the manga? I mean, like the anime, like, I mean, I feel like Rebirth is literally the One Piece anime of FF7. You know, because
It
it's
is.
way longer, it drags the
Yep.
pacing out a lot more, but when it hits hard, it hits hard.
When you
Yeah.
get your episode 10, 15, or
Yeah.
like your whatever's, right? Like
Yo,
the
bro,
classics.
Episode
it's,
10, 15 is like the date, bro.
Right. Yeah, that is the date.
Yeah. Yo,
That's
you,
the
you can tell
entirety
they
of that
got
section of the story.
Ishitani for, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. So, final thing before we go into spoiler territory, I just wanted to reiterate that the characters in this game have just been done so well. This cast, obviously, an all-time favorite of mine. Cloud has been one of my favorite characters for so many years, and I love what you said in regards to commitment, because I feel like that's something that is so important. Going from remake to rebirth, I wanted to see how committed are they to not just reimagining FF7 in this new type of open world, this new experience in a next generation console, but also to the multiverse timeline stuff, and they're very committed to every single aspect of it. And so for everybody out there who is not done with the game, we're officially going to be talking about a lot of stuff, very, very spoiler heavy, so I would recommend clicking off here, because we're definitely going to end up talking about the ending very, very soon. So getting into spoilers now, I wanted to go back to an earlier point, talking about Cloud and Aerith, because like I said, the Cloud in particular, I said Aerith is my favorite. Cloud will always be my favorite character from this game, but Aerith, what she represents and the dynamic between Cloud and Tifa, Aerith and Tifa, Aerith and Cloud, Barrett and Cloud, like there's so many iconic ones that what I wanted to get to with the commitment thing that you were talking about earlier was they are fully, and I mean fully, committed to the Cloud thing from the original game, the way that his mind breaks down throughout the course of the game. They are so committed to it, in fact, that they dedicated the main thing of that game, or of Rebirth in regards to Cloud, is that, which is why I was so enamored by those final hours, because that's my favorite aspect of the original game. My favorite moment of the original game is when Cloud finally, breaks free of that, and with the acceptance speech. That everything leading up to that is so brilliant and incredible that when we look at what they're setting up here with this game, how much they are fully committing to that aspect of it, I'm like, all right, man, wait, because when I started the final hours of the game, especially once you get to the Temple of the Ancients, I was like, wait a minute. They've been playing around since the Nibelheim flashback. They have been playing around with, Cloud, obviously unreliable narrator. Tifa, earlier than the original game, says, Cloud wasn't there 5 years ago. So immediately, and the individuals who are playing this for the first time, they're like, okay, something is wrong here. Cloud obviously is misremembering or lying, or something's going on here. But immediately after that, we see that Sephiroth messes with Cloud, making Tifa out to be some kind of imposter, right? So we have that storyline going on of Cloud misbelieving and or believing that the Tifa that he's been with this entire time is an illusion until we get to Chapter 9, which is why that is so impactful. Then on the other half of the game, it's that, but with Aerith in reverse, where it's like Aerith means so much to Cloud, to the crew, but not just that. It's like he just experienced this with Tifa. He just saw that the Tifa that he's been with this entire time is the real Tifa, right? Like the real individual that he grew up with, and at the end of Chapter 9, that is the closest that we're going to get to the real Cloud until we get to Part 3, was that section in Chapter 9. And so when we get from Chapter 10 until the end of the game, he's coming off of that, of like, all right, I just got fooled by Sephiroth. He told him right there, I'm not going to let you fool me like that again. And so what I find so fascinating about that is they commit so hard to that the entire final chapter is almost like Cloud 100%, no matter what he believes, like his mind is saying, he's like, Aerith is not an illusion. Like, and I find that to be so brilliant, because no matter what is going on with the timeline stuff, no matter what is going on with the multiverse stuff, the fact remains that Cloud is breaking down on such a level that what he's seeing is not the reality of the situation. And so for him, coming off of the entire thing with Tifa, he's like, I'm not ever going to let Sephiroth fool me again. But he did.
That's actually a very interesting way to look at it, yeah.
Yes.
It's like the opposite, yeah.
And I love it, because when you get to the scene of scenes, right? The scene that everyone was looking forward to in the Forgotten City, when Aerith comes down and Cloud... Okay, so I have to ask this before I continue with what I'm saying. How did you feel? Because this is my first time actually being able to talk to somebody else about this. Yeah. How did you feel when Cloud actually stopped the sword? I was like, what is going on right now? Like when Sephiroth was coming down from the heavens and he was about to stab Aerith and Cloud stopped it. How did you feel about that?
For me, it was like a whole experience, the whole thing, because it's like it's complicated on a lot of levels. On one hand, it was a very emotional experience for me, because I was like, oh god, it's coming, but like. Yeah. On one hand, like I was very checked out of a lot of the timeline stuff, so like I didn't like try to overthinking that much, and I think especially like I think that there is like a lot of like passion about like they commit to something very passionate about like trying to theory craft and make sense of it, but I feel like we almost kind of don't have enough information about it, that it's just simpler to just not worry about it and kind of think how it's gonna get resolved in the third game in a sense. But the thing is that when I was playing the game, seeing this level of faithfulness, I wasn't spoiled on the ending, but it's just like I knew that there was no changing history. I felt that in my gut. It's just, this is like an event that has happened, and it's like, and they're gonna commit to it, because that's kind of the whole point of FS7, right? Like it wouldn't be. So it's like, for example, when that happened with the sword and everything, was just like, I mean, probably there's gonna be like something here and whatever, but it's like, it's not gonna change anything. I felt it in my heart, and it's just, and then like a few seconds after, of course, we see that, and like the materia falls and the piano plays, and I broke down crying.
Oh, me too.
Because the thing is, like, for a second, I was so captured in like the emotions that I forgot about the sequence of the materia falling.
Yeah.
And seeing that play out, I was just like, oh my god, it hit like all the memories at once, and I just.
And I think that's what they were going for. Yeah. And that the end of Marineford thing all over again. They were trying to capture that.
Oda with the pearls with Ace. I'm just saying, he was just copying Big Fiction.
Yes, literally, bro. Like, so chapter 14 to me is so brilliant, because when you start off, immediately you're like, okay, something's off. Like, something is extremely off. And that entire date sequence is incredible, because it presents that Cloud has like an illusion of choice over him. He does not have the freedom to. That's why every single time you go to any of those things to pick out a gift for Aerith, he always gets it wrong, because it's like, no matter what you do, you cannot escape what's incoming, right? And it goes with like what's going on with Zack and how the world's about to end, and there's no way that they. And it leads very well into the last game, which goes into a lot of those topics of how will humanity deal with the incoming end of the world, and how it's kind of like a Majora's Mask type of thing, and it's really, really good. Yeah. But what they do so well to set up that moment with the sword is right before that, you do not see what happens at the end of the Temple of the Ancients. You just cut immediately to that thing, and you get little small flashbacks to what happened there at the end. Cloud is not seeing them, right? Like the real, what actually took place is being shown to us through these little moments where Cloud can even hear the party speak. So like, he's on top of Barrett. Barrett is holding him as they're going down the forest. And what actually took place, he can't hear, he can't process, he can't he's only filling in what's in his head. And it's so interesting the way they did it, because once you get to the Forgotten Capital, you're like, okay, how much of this is actually real? And so Tifa serves as, once again, just like the original game, the individual who is giving us the actual, not unreliable narrator, but the objective narrator that is letting us know what actually took place and what didn't. So Cloud in his head, similar to the original game, believes he is this hero who is a soldier first class and ready to take care of business. So in his head, he's like, absolutely, I just took out Sephiroth. So when it doesn't happen, he's like, wait, like what? Like what happened here? But what I find so fascinating, and the reason why I think the multiverse and timeline stuff is really going to, by the time we get to part 3, depending on how they stick the landing, it's going to end up enhancing this entire thing, is when you think about it, imagine a situation where Cloud, through whatever means necessary, when the merging with a live stream happens and he's forced to confront his other selves, could you imagine a situation where Cloud, looking at all of his other selves, is like, yo, you failed to save this individual in every single timeline. Like, every single time that you attempted to do it, you failed here, all except for in that one, right? The one that we think we saw at the end of the game, where he actually manages to save Aerith. But in reality, that'll be the one that will always escape him, which is why I think the final sequence with Aerith and saying goodbye and you must find me is so tragic, and made it even more emotional for me than even the original experience was, because I'm coming at this like you, with someone that originally that already played the original game. I'm like, man, I know what's incoming. I know it's inevitable. But the game wants you to believe it's possible, just like Cloud. The game wants you as the player as
But I
Cloud.
never believed it. But I think that's like more to my experience, and if anything, that enhanced it in a sense. You know, it's like the fact that I always knew, it's like, I'm not delusional like Cloud. Like, I've already made peace with this. I've accepted this, you know? And I mean, obviously, like, the biggest change sort of to, like, that final scene here is that, unlike the original where Cloud copes with the whole situation a lot faster, it seems here that, you know, he isn't coping with her loss quite as immediately, at least. Right? There's the whole thing about the fact that he can still, like, feel her and, like, see her, even though the other characters are like, she's not there, right?
I genuinely believe he just doesn't know that she's gone, which is why he hasn't grieved yet.
Right. And the thing, it's like, I don't even think, like, it's the fact that I don't think he doesn't realize that she's gone. I think that he just can't accept it, right? And he's still, like, in that, like, emotional conflict, because 100%. At the end, you know, he leaves her on the ground and they live with the plane, right? That's like the type of thing, if she was just alive, it's just he would get her on the plane, obviously. But it's just the type of thing where it's like, I do have something, I do feel slightly conflicted on one hand, because I think on one hand, I think this can be very powerful as a narrative tool for part 3, because 100%. You know, like, something that people criticized about the original is that Cloud goes through all of this loss, but then just goes back onto, like, snowboarding and stuff, and then you know, there's the whole stuff with the Northern Crater, and that's the stuff.
Yes.
Whereas instead, even part 3, we start with Cloud not fully processing the loss quite yet, and then, like, you know, he goes into the Northern Crater, he's still, like, losing himself throughout that period. You know, maybe he snowboards, because, hey, the minigame is fun, but, you know, he's still, like...
Or he goes through the minigame, but like I said, because he's lost it so much, and because he believes Aerith is out there still, he's like, oh yeah, we can still have our adventure, we're cool. But what's going to be really interesting is when he's snowboarding, and the other party members are like, how can this guy be so happy right now? Like,
you know? Exactly. Like, I think there's, like, a big potential to use that, and that's the thing, it's like, once the Northern Crater happens, you know, Cloud falls, like, Cloud gets on a chair and then falls into the live stream and everything, and then he finally has that moment of, like, you know, sobriety where he wakes up, he realizes everything about his memories, who he is, and everything that he's been in denial about, and him at that point finally realizing, it's like, oh, Aerith is gone, and having to cope with that has the potential to, like, be such a cathartic emotional moment for him.
For sure.
That has, like, a way bigger... Like, it will be much more able to give proper breathing room to Cloud coming to those feelings than any final cutscene to this game would have been able to.
You're absolutely right.
On the other hand, though, if I do feel something that comes at the cost of this is that I do feel part of the tone on the emotion of that scene was slightly lost.
Agreed.
I still, and I feel to the point like I feel like even some readers were some players were confused. Cause I saw some people was like, wait, it's like she actually like fully alive and stuff because it's like
right, and I think
and like
it was
you know what sorry you know what I would have
sorry.
loved. No, sorry. You know what I would have loved? They still kept the scene of lowering her into the water, like something as like visually powerful as that, and then Cloud is like, nothing's wrong. What are you saying? And he's like not even processing the scene, or something like that. Like it still happened, but then he still pretends.
But I think that's why they didn't include that scene, because I was going to bring that scene up of the iconic burial in the water did not happen because once again. Everything in chapter 14 was seen through his perspective, and if he can't process it, we're not going to see it. So I guarantee you when we get back to part 3, that because I agree with you 100%, they sacrificed this moment to fully commit to the Cloud thing going into part 3, which is why when we come back to this in part 3, we see the burial and it actually sinks in. Whoa!
Right. I mean, I feel they still could have like maybe found a way with like how they shifted with like defense stuff, or like I feel like it could have maybe been enhanced more if they let us process that, because I feel like it just comes off as a bit confusing.
No,
in
it does.
A sense. Like
For sure.
I feel they could have like I feel like they're already driving the point, like, and I think by the final cutscene it's pretty obvious. So I feel like at that point they could have committed a bit more. But I do appreciate sort of what you're mentioning, that they really committed to like not breaking his viewpoint of that.
Yeah.
The thing, but I still feel like there are like some parts like the lowering, and as well like for example like Cloud's speech during her death, and like we see that the speech is happening.
It's happening.
Like Cloud does it. But his like memories just like blur it out.
Yes.
It just stands out.
Yep.
And like here's the thing, I appreciate that for what it means here in the story and everything.
Yep.
But man, I kind of wish we could have gotten that speech in the moment.
Listen,
because it's such a powerful thing. So
hopefully.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you, because this moment is so important to the original game that us not get literally the moment was taken away from us by Sephiroth, and he says it like within the game, like I'm not gonna let you weep for such a thing. Like all of it, Aerith falling into the water, like you said, the final speech, we do not hear any of it. And whenever we got to specifically the burial not being shown there, that's when I was like, okay, they sacrificed. They know for a fact a bunch of people are going to be dissatisfied with this, but I feel like they held a meeting and they were probably like, you know what?
Commit.
What do we want to say with Rebirth? Like, and with the overall trilogy. Obviously this scene, the game cannot exist without this scene. And obviously all the other timeline stuff and everything, but to its core, the game cannot exist without this scene, so it's still going to happen similar to how it happened in the original. But how are we going to present it, and how is it going to match the type of story that we're trying to tell with remake, rebirth, and whatever, return, reunion, whatever? And they for sure sacrificed especially for a first time player, the emotional thing that accompanies Aerith's death, and the thing that it leads the entire party to feel, because all of us as players who already played the original game, we have a different type of perspective than a first time player. I'm actually very curious on seeing how a first time player would react to this, because I was crying like a baby specifically because of having the context of the original game, and feeling even more emotional considering how tragic this all felt by the end of it. How Cloud can't even process a person that means so much to him, right? And
can I mention also like a criticism I do have about this whole scene? And here's the thing: this isn't even like a story thing. It has nothing to do with the multiverse or narrative. I think it's a gameplay thing. I get why it's a thing and everything, but I did not like the final boss in how it tonally broke that whole point. Because in the original game, yes, there is a boss battle during that scene, but it's a very easy boss battle that it's literally just there to generate an emotion in you, right? It's like it's this type of thing where it's like you're feeling so emotional that you don't know how to react, and it's difficult to kind of focus on a battle, and it does that, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. Here, originally, I kind of felt something similar. When I fought the Genova fight and the Earth Thinking In, I was bursting into tears.
Me too.
My glasses were like covered in like tears. I was literally spamming attack on the enemy. I wasn't even using abilities because I just couldn't process things because of how I felt emotionally. And that's a beautiful thing. I loved that. Sure. I was just like, wow, that was incredible. But then it's like the game threw like 20 different phases at me, and it went like big epic final boss fight, and the characters are like, let's swing in, let's work together, which I get it kind of helps emphasize that thing where like Cloud perceives it from his perspective that nothing is wrong.
Yes.
But it's also the type of thing where it just kind of killed the tone a bit for me.
You're right.
And it's just like, and I was distracted, and the problem is as well, it's like the boss fight is also, some of the boss fights are also quite challenging, and it's the type of thing where it's like, I'm not here to like challenge myself and try to like make sure that I stagger the boss in the right way, because I feel it kind of goes a bit counter emotionally to that. And I was hoping that after that we would get at least the burial scene to kind of help you bring back into those emotions, but skipping straight through it made it miss a little bit. So I get that this is the end of this game and they wanted like something big for the finale, but I still feel like this whole thing could have been done while also helping preserve the emotions of the original. And if anything, I think that if they emphasized a bit better on maintaining those emotions, I think that it probably could have emphasized even more, like I said, the weird aspect of it. That's like, why is Cloud reacting so casually to all of this? Whereas I feel like not giving you like a lot of breathing room for that was a bit... Because like, as a random example as well, there's like, obviously the materia starts falling and they play Aerith's theme, right? And that's when I started crying. But then a few seconds later, it switches to Sephiroth's theme when it like shifts to him, right?
Yep.
And I get the point of that, but that also... Right, exactly. And I get the point. I get that it's intentional in a sense, but it did kind of like take away some of that emotion from me.
For sure.
And I feel especially with newer players, and I did talk with a couple of friends who were playing the game like blind for the first time. They also said as well that they weren't sure what to feel emotionally, because it's like, it's like it just like it jumps between both things awkwardly, and I get that it tries to do something with that, but I feel like it could have done so more effectively if it committed emotionally to it, and then after that point sort of gave us something more, more of this ambiguity and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, it's just details, because it doesn't take away the fact that in that immediate moment when that materia fell, my heart broke again. And during that final cutscene when the plane flies off, I said goodbye, and then 2 seconds later she said the exact same words, and I started like crying again, man. It's just like, dude. And it's like, it wasn't perfect and everything, but I think that's kind of part of the whole thing about FF7. It's just accepting things how they are, even if they're not exactly how you kind of wish they would be. And even some criticisms aside, like the whole experience, there are some other parts of the game that I feel they could have done better, that I wish like, this wasn't adapted as well, or I didn't like this small detail they changed. But when you put into perspective to the overall experience and the emotions that I felt, it's like, it's the last of my concerns, man. It's just what an experience, Right.
I'm so glad that I brought you on, because I've been, because the ending and the overall experience depending on the individual can be perceived in so many different ways. I really wanted to talk to somebody who had similar feelings on the game and a different takeaway from the ending, because the entire final boss sequence for me was maybe my favorite final boss ever, for the exact same things that you mentioned. like literally for the exact same things that you mentioned, because similar to something like an Evangelion or one of the things, like I was just so in awe of the fact they were committing so hard to not making this an emotional thing, and then being like, no, this is going to be through Cloud's mind, to the point where he's the only character that does not go into that final battle with a limit break. They're going to commit so hard that it's going to feel like this massive final Shonen Jump
holy
sequence.
Shit, I just realized, the limit break.
Yeah, he's the only one, because, bro, he doesn't know that she died. Every other character knows. It's crazy. So
they all get lit. I was like, why is Cloud not getting limit breaks in this fight?
Because he doesn't know she died,
because
bro.
No, dude, because he has the sadness effect.
True that.
Just like in the original.
Just like in the original. True that. And so, and so it's like the commitment there to make it feel like, especially with Zack coming in, and that was so hype as well. With him coming in and the two of them fighting Sephiroth.
Oh, they're doing the shoulder
epic
thing.
That gym was so epic, man. And so when you have all of the party, like there was a moment with Barrett and Nanaki where he was like, "Yo, let's do this, Nanaki," and knowing their entire dynamic throughout the course of the game, how it built and finally became something special. Where after Barrett with dying and after Red 13 and Cosmo Canyon, you saw that the two of them went from, instead of being antagonistic towards each other, they genuinely came to have a great friendship, and that's shown off there in that final scene. It's so good the way that they even did that there. But whenever you get into that final sequence, bro, I'm talking dream stuff from my childhood, and it's Cloud and Aerith versus Sephiroth. That was when I was like, you know what? Whatever it is they're building here, I leave it fully in their hands, because what I felt when I saw Aerith come out of there, once again, with the lens of, is this really happening or not? It just lent so well to that sequence, to the point to where when she disappeared there at the end, I'm telling, chapter 14 to me was just, I've gone through that chapter, I think like at this point almost 10 times, like on my own, and with reactions and things, and it's just, I love it so much, and I love it for all of the things that we're discussing, both good and bad from it, right?
That's the thing. It's like I really appreciate as well, like getting to talk about this with you, because, like I said, I'm someone who did feel very checked out of the timeline stuff. I didn't try to make much sense of it, and if anything, I do feel like some of those parts ruined some of the experience for me, but it's like hearing your perspective on this and the way that you're putting it, it's making me appreciate it even more, even in a way where, like, I don't even necessarily think it's a good thing. If anything, I still think like it could be a problem, but I appreciate the intent of it more. And it's like, again, I think that's like one of the really wonderful things about FS7, because I think it was one of the big aspects of the original as well, is that it is a story that does leave a lot of interpretation. It's a story that, changes a lot depending on how you emotionally feel the things. I mean, 100%. For example, like the dynamics that Cloud has with the characters are set in stone, but which of them are romantic is completely up to the player.
Great point. As well as your dialogue choices throughout the course of the game.
Exactly, yeah. That's something like, if I can just say for a moment, it's something that's kind of frustrated me a bit interacting with like the FF7 fandom, because I feel like there are some like, there's just like a side of the fandom which is like the really like toxic shippers, which are like, okay, but which one is canon, right? And then like the developers, like, I think like even the developers came out and said, it's like, oh, like romantically, it's like the choices that you make as a player, right? It depends on you. But then people are like, no, which one is actually canon? And it's like, I kind of feel like the toxic like Tifa versus Aerith fans who try to pit them against each other. It's almost kind of like toxic Zoro and Sanji fans,
It's a great comparison.
Like, yeah, I feel like you're missing the point. It's like, right? It's like, to me, it's just, there's all these stories have such a beautiful dynamic that, like the romance is kind of like the cherry on top, right? It's your own personal preference, but it's just, for me, the emotions that I felt in the relationship Cloud has with like either Aerith or Tifa, romantic or not, that's just like a side detail. It's such a beautiful story with all of these characters that is just so profound. And again, I feel like everybody kind of comes to own different interpretations, because I've seen people kind of like take it as like, oh no, like Cloud has this like romantic thing with like Tifa, but not with Aerith, or vice versa, has this thing with Aerith or Tifa, or Barrett, hey, a great option. And the game gives you that ability to just define a lot of these things. It's just the way they see it. I mean, for example, you can romance Yuffie if you want, but on my personal experience, to me, Yuffie felt like a little sister, to Cloud, and having that dynamic, and it's just, but maybe you could also interpret it differently. You could see them as best friends or stuff like that. There's so much that you can feel your mind in, and obviously I felt the original game lends itself better to this because there's a lot you can read between the lines, but I like that in Remake and Rebirth there's still like the opportunity to just have this be such a personal experience, and that's why I love talking with other players and hearing what they thought and what they felt, because it's just everybody comes out of something different from this game, and to me that's the real mark of a masterpiece.
100%. Very well said. Like going back to the original game, like you said, even the end of the game for us was like,
it's very ambiguous.
Before Advent Children and even Dirge of Cerberus, we were like, what happened at the end of the game? Like did they live?
Right.
Did
and even here's the thing, Advent Children and all the expanded media is technically like the developers have said it's technically a slightly separate canon from the original.
Right.
So it's like technically you can still view the original without the lenses of like all the additional media not existing. So it's like the ending of the game is ambiguous, but I love that because it's kind of coming to your own answers, you know. And to me, my own personal answers are obvious, right? It's like it will make sense, but I can totally see how people, you know, could see it different. Some people could see it fatalistically and see like, oh, the world got destroyed, you know, and it's like they all lost. But it's to me like FS7 is a story about how everything is gonna be all right. And it's just, to me, there's just no doubt to that at the end, you know? And to me, the ending of the original game is one of my favorite endings of all time.
Oh, me too.
It just, it means so much to me on such a profound emotional moment because, you know, I mean, look, I'll see it outright what it means to me. I feel like FS7, you know, at its core, there's this quote by Sakaguchi, which to me like perfectly encapsulates the whole point of FS7, which is even when someone passes on, it doesn't mean that they're fully gone.
Great point.
You know, because Sakaguchi lost his mother prior to FS7 development. It's something that affected a lot the way he wanted to approach the story.
Right.
And, you know, FS7 is a story about loss. And in the original game, Cloud, like, Aerith isn't fully gone because you realize that she became a part of the live stream, you know, and and there is sort of like a connection in that. And in that regard, like, Cloud eventually will one day become part with the live stream again, and so will everyone else, and Tiff and the other party members, and then there will be a day where they'll be able to have a proper reunion, which is kind of like, I feel like the real sort of meaning behind that, and be able to be together again, which is something that I feel like even this game kind of plays off of, because we see that, you know, like even in the song that Aerith sings, she says like, you know, it's like, even if we part ways, one day we'll reunite again, you know, and that whole thing. And that also kind of, it does make me slightly worried, but it also makes it kind of more interesting to me, because it's like Cloud here in this game instead struggles a lot more to move on from Aerith's, you know, passing. But what will be the emotional journey once he realizes, oh no, she's gone, but then in the end realizes, no, she is still here, just not in the way that I thought, not 100%. In this delusional way, but just she's still a part here with me. And the thing, and the theme fundamentally to me that kind of is encompassed with that ending, it's like, it's not even so much the idea that, you know, like when you die you can reunite with someone and stuff, but it's the whole theme about inherited will from One Piece, that it's just people only die when they are forgotten, because it's just people live on within you in the form of memories, in the form of dreams, in the form of what they've given you. And the whole point is that Aerith lives on within Cloud in everything that she has given to him.
Yep. And the rest of the party members. Yeah.
Exactly, and the whole party. And then just by the end of it, Cloud has that realization, you know, where like the hand extends. And it's like, even in the song in Rebirth, they say, take my hand, like in the final. So we're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. When you messaged me that, I was like, yo, he's on the same wavelength. He's on the same wavelength.
And just like the final scene is just like, you know, the whole meteor falling. You don't know what's going to happen. But then Cloud just looks and he sees Aerith's face.
Yep.
And it's like the one at the start of the game, but instead she's smiling. And Cloud realizes she's still here with me in one way or another. And the fact that, you know, the original game can capture that, and not just that, but like the fact that Rebirth captures this so well as well. You know, there's this section in the Temple of the Ancients where Aerith says, you know, it's like, no matter how much we suffered, we always need to think positively, you know, not reply with anger and revenge, but with compassion, forgiveness, and hope towards the future. Because I legitimately believe that everything can work out, you know, and it's like, and you know what, like, I always felt deep in my heart that the whole message of FS7 is that everything's gonna be all right.
Hmm.
You know, it's like life can be miserable. This world sucks, right? Like there's horrible things. We are killing the planet. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of difficulties and struggles, but it doesn't mean that you still can't enjoy those. Life is meant to be fun. You know, the whole point of FF7 is that it's a miserable story. Cloud is breaking apart. The world is breaking apart. Characters are dying, but he's also, you know, he's having fun by playing the bike minigame, you know, and it's kind of the whole, it's the whole point. Even the gameplay accentuates that. It's like, yes, there's sorrow, but you can have fun in that sorrow. You can appreciate those things, and honestly, I think it's one of the reasons, very bluntly, why I think that FF7 saved me in a lot of ways, because it came at a point in my life where I was feeling very miserable about a lot of things. I was struggling a lot because of my health and my difficult upbringing, but it's just like, even if I'm suffering through all these things, I think there are still things that I can value, that I can enjoy in life in this moment. And replaying FF7 Rebirth right now and experiencing those things again in this moment of my life, it's like, man, I needed this right now. You know, like, I mean, being a bit blunt, you know, like recently I've, you know, straight up, I've been dealing with a bit of depression and some personal emotional stuff, because I'm at a point in my life where my health has been improving a lot. I'm getting past a lot of my own personal health problems, which is a good thing. And I have the ability to do a lot of things that I always wanted. But emotionally, I've been struggling to move away from what has always been my life. Gotcha. I've always lived my life with all of these problems, all these things weighing down. And it's hard for me to understand how to be happy, because I'm always like almost kind of paranoid about that, because it's just, I don't know how to like for me, my perception of life has always been so different that it's just kind of difficult. But FS7 has helped me remind that it's like life was never about like reaching a perfect point where I was happy or things were better. It's just being able to make the most out of the present. Maybe the present is really good and you can make a lot out of it, but maybe the present is also miserable and you can still take something special out of it. You can still enjoy it. It can still mean something to you. And even then, in spite of everything, in spite of like how everything can seem, everything's gonna be all right in the end.
Right.
You know, like everything's gonna have a meaning. Everything is gonna have value. And you know, like the moment when like this hit in, and it's just I felt so overwhelmed with emotions. It's the fact that in the original, obviously, Aerith dies. She falls in your arms, and Cloud has his whole speech. In this game, they decided to add one final line to her speech before she dies. It's just one line, but what does she says? In the Japanese version, she says, Cloud, daijoubu, you know? Or in the English version, everything's gonna be alright.
Right.
And if that isn't the main theme of FF7, man, I don't know what is. That's why I love this game. The original FF7 changed me. It saved me, and this game reminded me why it did, and it's 100%. Still doing it to this day. And that's just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, dude. No, beautiful. Very, very well put, man. That was touching the soul. I love so much of what you said, especially in regards to a lot of the themes that the original game was going for. There, reminded me of, you know, when you go to Costa del Sol in Rebirth, and Barrett's like, "Yo, we need to go after Sephiroth. What are you guys doing?" And Aerith and Tifa are like, "Hey, we have to have fun. Like let's have some fun. We're here. Like we're taking a detour."
And I love that on the beach you talk to Aerith and she literally just says like, "We need to cherish moments like this."
I have that thing screenshotted on my PlayStation, that when she says that, like, we have to cherish these moments. It's that. So going into my own personal thing with FF7, the reason why it means so much to me. Going into Cloud and his entire thing, his journey of self-acceptance hit home on such a personal level, because for so many different individuals, we struggle with a lot of different things, but as someone who creates, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, as someone who creates, we can often feel like imposters or amalgamations of other individuals being placed onto the thing, right? So Cloud's entire journey to realize himself, and not just himself, but that the even though he was trying so hard to be someone else, the one that everyone loved was him all along. And I feel like that's such a powerful message.
Yeah.
It goes into what Aerith says in this game of like, I've just been trying to find the real you. Like where is it?
Yeah.
And speaking of Aerith, similar to Yamato, which both of them were happening at the same time when Remake Part 1 came out and Yamato was in the manga. True. The entire thing of being chained and shackled and being kept in one location for so long, and then once you're set free, that sort of scared Aerith, where she was like, I don't know what's incoming. Like I miss it, the steel sky, the comfort of knowing what comes next. And that's why I resonated with your words, because it's difficult to let go of once you've been doing something for so long and dealing with something for so long, that sense of freedom that accompanies it, even though it should feel very satisfying and fulfilling, it may not always feel that way because of the unknown possibilities. And that's what Aerith represents.
It's kind of part of what I'm experiencing in my life right now as well. Like I've always been very much stuck to my room because of my health, and it's just getting to see everything else is very exciting. But there's also just that I almost kind of have like I have a fear of being happy because I'm scared to lose that happiness in a sense, or like not being able to like maintain it like long term. And it's just there's just like this beauty of just accepting things, accepting yourself, accepting things as they are. This whole story, like I said, like we have this almost kind of like imposter syndrome, right? But I feel like a lot of people, a lot of us in general, kind of feel this need to, be someone who we are not, because we are craving that attention, we are craving that affection, and someone like Cloud was missing it, and I love the fact as well that Cloud didn't have a super ultra tragic backstory or anything.
Same.
Cloud isn't the type of guy who's like, oh, he went through a lot of things, he turned out away. He's just a normal kid that wanted attention, like many of us, Yeah. But still, it's just on the way to that, a lot of times we kind of tend to lose things, and a lot of times we feel the need to prove ourselves and just be like, no, we need to be better than this, or like reach certain achievements. And I think it's just something that I've been experiencing in my life across the years, and even something that I feel like I'm really coming to now is just being able to appreciate myself for who I am, because I realize that's the version of me that people value the most.
Very, very, very well said. Cloud, in regards to what you were saying there with him not having a tragic backstory, it's so interesting that from our first showcase of him in the flashback at Nibelheim, even in this game, where he refuses to go in through the door and relive those memories with his mother again, it's so interesting how that stuff directly correlates to so many different aspects, right? Like, he lost everyone that was closest to him to the point to the end of this game, which is why it leads so much into that part of his point of view, where he lost Claudia, he believes he lost Zack, and he believed he lost Tifa, and then he believed he lost Aerith. Like, Cloud lost so many individuals, or at least he believed he lost so many individuals that were so close to him. Even Sephiroth directly betraying him, this person that he looked up to as a hero, was never the hero he believed.
In terms of like not having a tragic backstory, I mean like before like all the Nibelheim stuff, obviously.
Oh no, I'm saying like I agree with you with the tragic backstory. What I was trying to say is like it's beautiful how this game handles like what he's going through right now, rather than just focusing, because obviously all the other characters have their tragic backstories and what they dealt with, but Cloud is like dealing with that tragic backstory in real time. Like, he has that Nibelheim flashback, and that's tragic in its own right. But at this point in time, we're dealing with Cloud's, like, what you would call in One Piece, like his One Piece flashback. Like, exactly, right now he's going through
like
so
a lot
much.
of the other characters have had their flashbacks and are now moving on.
Right.
Cloud instead hasn't had that flashback, but is now experiencing the flashback in a sense.
Right.
And you have to keep in mind the Nibelheim flashback took place like 2 months ago from his perspective.
Yes, exactly.
He's like straight out. Whereas Tifa, she's moved on. She's met Barrett, Marlene, Biggs, Jesse, all the other characters, Cloud as well. She's started to move on from that as well. But like Cloud, to him, he's still in the middle of that flashback.
Right. It's kind of like when we think back to Wano, like Kinemon and Momonosuke just saw that happen, but to the other people that happened 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's very similar in that regard. Like this is all Cloud is still trying to deal with so much of this trauma that as more stuff adds on, he doesn't know how to process it because he still hasn't finished processing his mom dying or Zack dying or any of this, right? Like he's pushing all this stuff to the back, and eventually he's not going to be able to do that anymore, which is.
I love that FF7 has one of the rawest depictions of denial. Yeah. I feel that denial is such a human thing that very few stories explore. And that's just something that, like, I feel it's almost a bit of a shame because I feel like all human beings have denial to some part or another. Like, even, like, someone who's a lot into psychology, like, even people who are very healthy mentally, they have things that they put on the back of their mind.
Great point.
But I think that especially when you go through therapy and explore yourself, you just realize the sheer amount of things that, like, man, you were ignoring. Like, it's just, like, so much trauma, so many things and stuff like that just, aren't there. And unfortunately, it's a subject that it's difficult to approach in stories because a lot of people who are in denial currently, because of something they're going through in their life, don't like to acknowledge mentally the fact that it's in denial because it goes against that survival instinct. And so, to some people, the theme of denial, especially if it's set like very directly in a story, makes them uncomfortable. And I feel that maybe has played a bit into it not being as popularly explored in stories. But because of that, I love that like FF7 is so direct about it and it's so human about it, and it's showing that going against the denial and facing reality is going to be more painful. That's just the truth.
It's just truth.
And it's and it's going to hurt a lot more, but then in the end it's going to be more worth it. You're going to get a much bigger sense of freedom, It's like even I myself like like for me my denial goes more for me, like, I wouldn't say for me it's like ever been much denial, but like with a lot of my trauma, it's the type of thing where like even a bit consciously, I put away on the back of my head because I wasn't like emotionally ready to face it. And then over the years, I've been like slowly unpeeling it and like been facing it stuff. And it's like, it's been fucking hard, right? It's like, oof, like, oh my God, I didn't realize how broken some of these things were. But then it's just, you get that sense of like, freedom, that you're not running away from something, that you aren't always trying to hide something, that you can just accept everything as it is. And getting to see that journey reflected with Cloud across this game as well, and I'm looking so forward to seeing it finally come to heads in like the final game. Like there's like the moment when Cloud comes clean in the final game where he just says like, "Thank you guys for being there with me," and it sounds so genuine.
That's my favorite moment in the entire game. Yeah.
It feels so genuine.
Yeah. It's incredible. Going back to the commitment thing and how far they're going for this is he's the only one that doesn't have a trial in chapter 13. Like in chapter 13, they all go back to
yes.
to face
that
their
was
past.
One of the best parts of the game.
Every single character faces their past except for Cloud because he's currently facing that past. Like he doesn't need to go on a trial. He sees Sephiroth in his head every day. Yeah. Like it's
dude, that whole sequence like was so emotional because I love the fact they specifically put them in ascending order of more traumatizing.
Yes, bro.
And it's like by the time we got to Barrett, it's like I was a bit disappointed that we never got to see Myrna because me too. I was kind of curious what appearance she would have, and then she appeared like, oh my gosh, and she only appears just to kill her off in like 2 minutes.
And you have to play that's the thing that makes video games so special is that you play going to her. Like you have to move yourself to her, and I was so heartbroken for Barrett, man.
Dude, and then there's the section with Aerith that actually like emotionally broke me. Yeah, because you have to play as a child, and it's like press L2 to beg for help. Like, oh my God. And the thing, it's like seeing like a kid beg for help, and the adults just ignoring her. That like broke my heart because that hit something personal.
No, for sure.
Oh.
For sure.
That whole section was incredible.
Yeah, I loved it so much. And then even just recently with like the intergrade stuff, seeing, I had no connection to Sonon before playing the Yuffie DLC, and for that to evoke an emotional reaction out of me was really powerful stuff. Where I was like, yeah, Yuffie's still dealing with this as well, and still dealing with losing someone close to her, and the incoming stuff that's happening with Wutai that's about to take place in Part 3 as well. So. It was such a well done segment. I want to ask you about,
and it wasn't in the original. It was completely unique.
That's what I'm saying. Like and that's I think what makes this entire trilogy so special is that they're able to introduce stuff like that was not in the original game and make it feel like it was always there to begin with. Which goes into some of the other things. I wanted to ask you about some other things that stood out to you in this game, like other standout moments, other things that were just that just stood out to you throughout the entire experience. I can give you an example of one of mine that actually comes from a side story, and that would be going back to the Chocobo Billy thing. I was somebody who played a lot of Chocobo racing growing up. I tried my hardest to get the gold Chocobo. I have a save file that still has the gold Chocobo on it. I was so proud of it.
I haven't 100% at FF7 yet, but it's like the thing I've been hearing for everyone is just like, dude, the Chocobo racing is like, you won't get it.
Yeah, man, it's like legendary. And like to put so much time into that and a lot of the other stuff in the Gold Saucer, and to see what they did with all of that, but specifically with the Chocobo Racing, Chocobo Billy, and how they took Sam from Remake and gave him a different role in this game with Chocobo Billy. That was a side quest that was consistent throughout every single part of the game. That's when I was like, okay, there's an obvious commitment here to long-term storytelling that is even present in the side stories.
There are some story arcs that are being carried from Remake through Rebirth, and will kind of like probably end in Reunion. Like I remember, like Leslie appeared in a side. I was like, oh, I forgot that existed.
Yep, I was like, Leslie, oh my god! And then and his is gonna finish in part 3 because we didn't find her obviously in this game.
Yeah. But the thing is, I do kind of. At the same time, I do kind of prefer when the character arcs felt like fully contained within this game. You know, like with Billy or even Kairi.
Oh yes, she was so good in this game. She was so good. Oh man, she was great in the first one, but she was really good.
Here's
in this
the thing:
one.
it's like I remember like seeing a lot of these characters pop up in Remake, and I was like, I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about them like reappearing again. In like the next game, but then reappearing in the next game, I was like, man, I'm getting like really endeared to these guys. Like, man, like Beck's badasses.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
dude. One of the funniest, like side quests was the job interview.
Oh man,
where it's like I like one of the options was so funny. It's like one of the dialogue options was literally like, so what is your previous work experience, right? And you can be like ex-soldier. You can be I'm a mercenary who does our jobs, and you or you can say I'm not gonna tell you. And if you pick I'm not gonna tell you, they're like, unemployed.
The comedy is so good, dude.
The comedy was I was laughing so many times at so many points. And I love it has that magic, like kind of like stories like One Piece have, or like others still have, that it's just they're able to take comedy and make it feel emotional, you know. Like again, going back to that final side quest where it's like, is that the Shinra Creed? No, it's the middle manager Creed. It's so stupid, but it made me feel emotional.
Yep. Shout out to that middle manager who was so committed to his job. He went to Costa del Sol to get the pictures, and then did it at the end of the game as well. It's just incredible, man.
I love that. And there's just so much about this stuff, right? And it's just, again, I feel like it ties so well with the theme of F7 that it's like, the world can be miserable, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a right to have fun, you know? And it's just, I love that it captures that with so many, like, stupid-ass minigames and stuff. It's like... Man, this town is like oppressed by Shinra and control. Well, let's go with the dolphin, and frog jumping.
Yep. Like the kids are having so much fun, even though this town is completely oppressed, and it comes across really well through that dolphin minigame.
I love that. I love stories that can be goofy, not just to get a laugh out of you or just be funny or whatever, but as a statement that the whole point of life is to have fun. I think it's something that One Piece does so well. It's something that, like, one of my favorite other manga at the moment does as well. It's like 100 Girlfriends, which I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have. I've only watched the anime, but I haven't read the manga. The anime was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. That's the thing. Like Asona has been reading the manga since chapter 1. It's just a whole thing where, like, it's so stupid, but it's not stupid just to be funny. It's stupid to make a statement that maybe sometimes we shouldn't worry as much and just enjoy life. Life is meant to be fun, and I love like stories that can encompass that. FF7, the original, always was this. It's always like really stupid, and it just embraces it here, and I love that.
Yeah,
because life is meant to be silly. It's that year 5th magic, dude.
Yes. I was just about to say that. It's that Luffy pulling sunglasses out of his afro magic on a consistent basis. And you're absolutely right, dude. Like, that's the reason why I'm so glad they committed to the mini games, because they're to have fun on this adventure with your pals while going on to have those moments where it's extremely emotional, then very hilarious, then extremely epic. Like, that's what all my favorite stories have, is that balance between those serious and goofy moments. And to highlight another one of those great moments in this game is whenever you go from a very serious moment of Rufus about to indirectly declare war on Wutai again. He fires off the thing just like in the original game, and then you get the Shinra Parade sequence. But not only do you get the Shinra Parade sequence, you get that, and then you get very, very tied to all of the members that you recruited on this journey with you. And he actually...
Captain, sir!
Yes! Like, come on, dude! And so it's that extra stuff that just made this such a magical experience. It's like, come on, man.
June was amazing, man. That whole... Even just the build-up to the parade, you know, and getting to, like, go through Junon and everything.
Yeah.
You know, the whole, like... Da, 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 da. I remember, like, joke. I was, like, telling my friends, like, guys, I believe in Shinra now. What a great company. I felt inspired after that, man. I'm signing up.
Dude, when Rufus was delivering his speech, I was like, put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game. I'm here.
Yeah. I'm getting brainwashed. I'm a whole here.
Right. I was getting brainwashed when I heard "Bow Wow Wow." I was like, "Yo," I was like, "I'm a Shinra soldier, dude."
Yo, straight up, bro. If I was a kid in the FF7 world, I'd be like, "Oh, big fiction."
That's it.
Stamp is the gold.
That's right. Yeah, it's amazing, man. Like, I know we talked about our feelings on entering the gold saucer, since that was so magical, man.
Here's the thing, like, I always enjoy the gold saucer, but I feel like in the original game, because it goes by so quickly, like, you don't have a lot of chances to do a lot of the minigames and stuff, it didn't have as much of an impact. And, like, generally in the original game, the impact of the gold saucer is on the second visit, because that's where you get to play a lot more of the minigames. That's where you have the date, that's where you have, like, the more emotional story stuff and stuff like that. But I do like that they balance it here more towards the first visit. And it was one of those things where I was always looking forward to it, but I never realized that it was probably my favorite chapter of the game, honestly.
It is a fantastic chapter. Chapter 8, dude, that chapter goes crazy. It is a great chapter.
There's so many contenders, and let's say maybe it's my favorite location, because I also really love the day chapter, which I think is chapter like 12.
Yes, chapter 12. Yep.
It's just incredible.
That Loveless play, man. Greatness.
Dude, oh my god. The fact, like, I mean, like, through chapter 12, like, the having the Loveless play and everything, you know, you have, like, first the part with Jassy, the cutscene, then you get to play through it.
Yes.
In, like, all those silly ways. And then, but that's the thing, and then after that, the game is like, okay, here's an insert song. And, like, it only clicked in, then it's like, oh, I do remember seeing this at the Game Awards. But I kind of had forgotten about the trailer because it had been so long, and it's just like having an insert song hitting you in the middle of the game. It's like an anime, you know when, like, the insert song hits and you're like, you know, like, oh, you know, that's it, you know, well, you know, it's like, you know, like ReZero with the same with Ram and Subaru.
Yes,
like
great
insert song hits.
comparison. Great comparison. Like, that is legit.
When an insert song hits, you know, it's like, oh, this is.
It's always peak.
You know,
it's always peak.
It's always fake, right? Yeah. And having that in a game like this, and because in the original game, like, in remake, Hollow only plays during, like, the credits.
Yep.
Right.
Only an instrumental version plays. Whenever you're walking around, but that's it. Yeah. That's it.
There is the instrumental, but, like, the vocal version, and that's kind of what I expected here as well. Like, there's probably going to be a song, so having that hidden in the middle, and being, like, the emotional culmination of the whole series.
Yeah.
Of what the whole story of FF7 means into just those words, like I think that actually made me cry even more than the ending.
See,
up. That was such a powerful moment.
I definitely teared up there, but when No Promises to Keep played again at the end, that's when I cried the hardest in the whole game. Like,
Right.
I was like, oh my god,
That's
dude.
all, yeah.
This is crazy.
I mean, yeah. I think to me, moments that make me happy make me cry harder than moments that make me sad, but it's still like... you know what's the weirdest thing as well?
Mm-hmm.
That after, like, that final, like, chapter, like, the next day, I was ready to, like, feel just depressed. It's like, having to go with that loss, but it's like, I did not feel sad at all. I just felt grateful.
Yes.
And obviously, to be fair, when I went through that scene in the original, I was depressed all the way until the ending of the game, right? And it's kind of the intended emotion. But like here, because I already have experienced that thing through the original game and getting to experience here again, it's just like I'm reminded. It's like I feel that when you lose something, if it hurts a lot to lose something, that means that you've gained something even more valuable than what you've lost.
Right.
I'm getting to feel that not just with the characters and with everything that happened, but also with the whole experience and realizing that it's over. You know, like, yeah, I kind of want to go back and maybe I'll do hard mode or whatever, but it's like there's no capturing this experience ever again. I'm never going to get this first experience about FF7 Rebirth for the first time, and that's a beautiful thing
100%.
Because that's a memory that's going to stick with me. This is the thing I'm going to like, and this is a game I'm going to keep thinking about for so many years to come. It's the fact that the game could just evoke these feelings is just... Again, it's just the best compliment that I can give to this game is that it made me feel some of the same things I felt with the original game. It's just incredible.
No, absolutely.
Just being able to, like, I remember being in the middle of it, and it's just I had that feeling that I remember from the original game. That's like, I'm going through something so special right now. Just like that simple emotion, and it's incredible, honestly.
Yeah, man. It's similar sentiments in my end in regards to the experience, right? Like I said earlier, I remember whenever I was like mid chapter 5 and all the greatness that just finished happening in the Junon parade. Then you get to chapter 5, they expand the Shinra 8 boat into a really amazing Queen's Blood tournament, and I was like, oh man, in my head I couldn't believe
and it's just
how
that
good
moment,
this was.
There's that moment,
and
when
then
you're
I wanted to go back to the open world.
Boat.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like, but there's like that moment on the boat when you're just chilling on the deck, seeing like the sunset, and the music plays in the background.
Music,
you're like,
yes,
man,
yes, dude. Every single region had their own version of On Our Way that hit different.
Dude,
It hit different, dude. Every single time. Even, bro, the Cosmo Canyon one was a bop. I was like, oh yeah, this goes hard. This goes hard. I have to ask, how did you feel about the expanded Gongaga region and like the Tifa stuff that happened there? Because that stuff was insane.
That was amazing. Because it's like it was one of those points where I was like, are we making this game a little bit too long? Because it's the toughest stuff. I was already starting to like get slightly tired, not in a bad way, you know, but it was almost like overwhelmed, you know. It's like, well, okay, it's Cosmo Canyon and Nibelheim and that's it, right? And it's like, oh, Gongaga, this region that was like 10 minutes in the original is now 10 hours. But it's like, but man, it was so beautiful. It was one of my favorite open worlds. I really loved the jungle.
It was nice.
And just getting that story, getting Cisne, oh my god.
Yes, my girl.
I'll be honest, I'll be straight up, I kind of hate, well, hate is a strong word, but I don't give a damn about any of the additional characters of Crisis Core, like Genesis or like Angel, Lizard, whatever the doctor was. It's just, I felt better for saying. But Cisne was the one character from Crisis Core that I felt like just felt very naturally integrated, was such a good character. And I appreciate that she's the one that actually decided to bring back here because it makes sense. And the fact that she took care of Zack's parents as she promised.
Yes.
And the story never states it, but you get it.
Yeah,
like,
you get it.
Feel it, and it's like, yeah. That's just such a great thing. And just that, it's like, and I appreciate, again, I think this is one of the points where I feel like they created such a perfect balance by being able to divide the new stuff and the old stuff. It's because Gongaga is essentially a new filler arc. in big part. There are some elements of the original, like Scarlet arriving in a helicopter, but obviously that's like expanded way more, right? It is almost like a completely new arc here.
Definitely.
So that's where they introduced a lot of the whispers and the timeline stuff and stuff like that, because that way they can naturally integrate into the story without potentially ruining other emotional scenes from other arcs, like the Gold Saucer or Cosmo Canyon.
Right.
And that's just brilliant.
It is.
It's such a fantastic balance.
It is. Like, I really appreciate what they were building there with original stuff in regards to Tifa, her live stream sequence, and the weapon. Because I was like, wait, what are we going to do with the weapons in this game? Because obviously they're like iconic bosses in the original sequence that come out whenever Meteor's about to hit the planet. But here I was like, wait, are we going to cook something where they're going to be even more important and maybe have an emotional attachment to one of our main party members? I was like, oh, this is really cool. I like what they're doing here. But that Tifa section, because obviously, once again, the commitment to Cloud.
They're using that stuff from part 3.
Yes, and bro, even the Scarlet stuff. I was like, oh man,
the live stream was so beautiful.
Yeah, like, dude, the entire live stream sequence.
I love that they captured the beauty of it so well.
Blew my mind because I didn't think we were gonna see that until part 3, and so to see Tifa's version of that was like, oh man, I can't wait for part 3. Like, Tifa was just, like you said earlier, she was so incredible in this game. Yeah. But that moment in chapter 9 was like, oh wow, like they got it. They understand. They see the vision. They understand this character. They understand her importance to the story. They understand even in regards to building up the stuff with her and Scarlet. And even the stuff with we know we're gonna face Palmer.
That slapping minigame gonna go so hard.
I can't wait. I can't wait. You're probably gonna have to spam square. It's like
they're gonna be like, oh, get a high score.
Right. Oh, that's gonna be so good. I would play that all the time, bro. Just to get the highest score on Scarlet, that would be amazing. That's also why I think they left out Rocket Town, because I feel like when we get to part 3 and we get Rocket Town, we're gonna face Palmer.
I was very bummed out at first.
Right, we're gonna face Palmer again for the last time because they had Palmer at the end of chapter 8. So now we're gonna see him again in Rocket Town.
I'm begging that they nail the Palmer gets isekai scene.
Yes, I can't.
That was like one of my favorite scenes from the original. And that's the thing. It's like I was a bit bummed out at first because, man, I've been waiting 10 years to see Palmer getting run over. It's just one of the things I've wanted to see the most. Because it's just so funny. I wanted to see that in HD. And it's just, 4 more years. But it makes sense. I get it because, it's like, it's better to have like Sid and Vincent's full character arcs in the third game rather than just starting them here and just breaking them apart. For sure. And it makes, it's also the reason why it makes sense they're not playable. I was a bit surprised at first, but I'm like, that makes sense, actually. It's like just to kind of have them half built as characters here. It makes more sense to wait for part 3. So I feel like that makes sense, but it's still like at first, ah.
No, for sure.
Like, I want it now, bro. I want part 3 now.
Yeah, no, for sure, bro. Like I thought when at the end of Gongaga, when they were like, okay, there's a pilot waiting for you. I was like, there's no way we're going to Rocket Town right now. I was like, hold on, wait a minute.
I did not even process it until like you start calling it like wait, and then like you see the boots and the light. I'm like, oh,
I was like, my boy,
my man.
Bye, boy.
Yeah, dude. I will say one thing about Sid's character. It's the fact that obviously they toned down a lot of his abuse. Let's put it. And I kind of get it. And I really like this Sid. But I feel, to me, part of the whole original experience was the fact that Sid was a pretty horrible person. Yeah. Because of what happened to him. And seeing him grow out of that and essentially become this version of himself by the end was such a cathartic thing. Right. And I don't know, I kind of got the point of why they did it this way and why they wanted to tone it down, but I feel slightly disappointed that we don't see so much of his abusive, toxic side, because I think that would make it so much more satisfying if we saw this version by the end. Maybe we'll get to see that more once he reaches Rocket Town and he talks with Hera.
I do believe so.
And like with her, and we'll get more of that. But it is still something that I wish we could have gone a bit more. But I can also kind of understand it's the type of thing that if players who like played this game blind only saw that, it's like, man, this guy sucks.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe they would have added to it, Yeah, it's like maybe this character sucks, but then by the third game, it's like, whoa, no, actually, Sid is the GOAT.
Right. I think in regards to the characters specifically, Well, like I always say, let them cook. Because with these two games, they have shown they have a complete understanding of each party member. So I feel like in part 3, what they have in store, what they're already setting up with Vincent, and I feel like with Sid, because I was right there with you, I was like, this ain't the same Sid I know. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And so I feel like what they might be building for, and the reason why they had the Ifal and the Aerith stuff there, is once Aerith is no longer in the party, and we get back to Rocket Town, and we see that toxic side of Sid.
It's actually going to be a very big contrast.
Right. And
you're like, oh, wow, who's this guy?
It's like, who is this guy? And then once we see him revert back to what we saw, we're like, oh, like, there we go. That's the Sid. It's like maybe when we get to Rocket Town, everybody's going to talk about Sid as like this horrible individual. We're going to be like, he's the nicest guy in the world. What are they talking about? And then we actually see how he is with Hera and stuff. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, what's going on here? So I'm interested in seeing how they handle Rocket Town for sure in the next game. Same thing with Wu-Tai,
Vincent. Bro. Yeah, you mentioned Vincent. Just a very quick note. There's this dialogue that I loved in the Gold Saucer that you can speak to Vincent in the hotel. And he says, like, I like this hotel. Very nice ambience. 5 stars. It's such a stupid dialogue.
Oh, man. I love Vincent, dude. I really do.
I love he just plays into the edgelord Thor. It's like, oh, nice ambience. So you were saying about Wu-Tai.
Oh no, yeah, I love that because it actually goes into what I was gonna say with Wu-Tai is that they were building up so much, right? Like for example in Gongaga, you see the soldiers that they placed in there so they could declare war on Wu-Tai. Declare war on Shinra.
Nibelheim,
and stuff. And so it was they're already setting up Wu-Tai to be like this huge thing in this game.
Yeah, because in the original game, you know, like Wu-Tai was in war with Shinra and everything, but obviously in the original game, you just see like a small town because that's kind of how it's built.
Right.
Whereas I hope here we do get a bit of a bigger feel that like Wu-Tai is a major military player, right? And they are like a big nation or something like that.
For sure.
And it's gonna be interesting to explore.
And I feel like that's why they ended the game with that Rufus Lodbrok scene. Because next game, that's going to be a huge, like, I'm pretty sure Wu-Tai is going to be one of the most important sections of that game. It's going to be Wano, dude. We're going to Wano.
Yeah, we're going to Wano, yeah. Wu-Tai, the Wu-Tai country.
We're going to see Orochi and Kaido.
That pagoda.
Oh, man.
That pagoda going to go, like, kind of hard.
Yeah, man. Extremely hard.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I remember when I did the Gilgamesh quest, and I went to Gilgamesh, and I was like, bro, this is Onigashima.
Yo, legit! I said the same thing!
Going through the story gates,
Yeah! I was like, bro, I'm waiting for it to start floating.
Yeah, and I remember when, like, you told me, it's like we chat about this, it's like, bro, I entered, like, the Cosmo Laboratory, it's this library of horror, and you said, like, oh, this is Egghead.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, literally.
Yeah,
Bugenhagen is literally, like, kind of gives big punk feels.
Yeah, man, I was really pleasantly surprised how they handled Cosmo Canyon, the Ark, and then the Gi Cave. I was like, wow.
Yeah, the Cave of the Gi was amazing. Yeah.
The cave was like, it felt like when I played Tears of the Kingdom, and you had like this part in the overworld and this part in the underworld. That's how that felt. Where I was like, this entire area is under here. How big is this game?
Yeah.
This is insane.
The thing is, like, I will say there was one thing about Cosmo Canyon that I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. This is such an epic, all things considered, but it's like the fact that they made the whole planetology thing kind of like a bit of a cult. And I think it's like, it's also, it's like, I wonder why, because I feel there has to be some narrative point to it, I don't feel like I can quite fully grasp why. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like in the original, Cosmo Canyon felt more like Gongaga, which just these people that sort of have retreated from like the world and Makon are just learning to just coexist with the planet, you know, and that was something real beautiful. Whereas here instead, it felt more of a cult, and there was this whole thing about like the fact that Bugenhagen was like, he was a global warming denier. Mm-hmm. Yep. Right? He was like, no, global warming is just a hoax, right? And then by the end of it, he's like, by the end of it, he's like, you know, I was just in denial because, you know, maybe I was too worried about it. But to me, it kind of feels a bit weird because in the original game, he's like, the planet is going to die. Yeah. Like, he even says this line to Nanak, it's like, you'll understand better when the planet ends. Just like as a stated fact, because it's just like, this is the reality we have to live with now, right? Yep. But in spite of that, I want to believe that something can be done. And I can kind of understand maybe they wanted to approach it that way, but it was a bit of an odd shit changed for me. But I'm also saying this from the perspective that like Cosmo Canyon was my favorite area of the original. And it's just a place I have such an emotional attachment. I have this massive painting of Cosmo Canyon in my room.
Oh, that's
I love
cool.
this place.
That's really cool.
And it's just the type of thing where it's like I was like conflicted. Another ultra small nitpick, but man, I kind of hated the fact that Cosmo Canyon for the most part was all during the day. Because the best part of the original was the sunset ambience, man. I like that so much.
Yep.
And here's the thing. In the middle of the Cosmo Canyon arc, you get the sunset as you go down to watch like the Far Festival, which that was fantastic in itself.
Yep.
And it's like, why cannot I not explore the whole area with this sunset? So good. It's the same thing with Junon. You get the amazing sunset when you first get there in the open world, but then you actually go to Junon and you get like the daylight. And please, devs, just patch in a thing that lets you adjust the daytime system, at least for New Game Plus.
Yeah, on
please.
The PS6 version or the PC version, please. That would be so awesome.
Please.
That would be so awesome.
Or just patch it, please, or something. I don't know. Like they added like they improved the performance mode a bit, which was. Did you play in graphics or performance?
I played in graphics because I wanted to get the full. I wanted to see everybody's particles, the part of their hair that would shine. Like I wanted to see the whole shebang.
Performance mode was so blurry. Yeah, the thing as well with the patch, this actually rubbed me a bit off the wrong way. In the new patch, you literally cannot clear the final side quest. It is completely broken.
Oh wow.
Thankfully, I was able to like revert that by like resetting the game and playing offline. But it was the type of thing I was like, dude, the irony of like doing all those impossible minigames and it just doesn't trigger the final flag. It's just like there's something almost like it almost feels like it's on purpose because like I don't mean this as a negative because I actually find it like a bit of a positive. But man, those minigames were hard.
Oh yeah,
to
bro.
100%.
Dude, I'm playing it on, like I said, I'm playing the game on hard mode right now, and the mini games, like the full actual like on hard mode mini games, they are very difficult. Like, bro, the final Queen's Blood, the Queen's Blood boss, the hard Chocobo racing, Fort Condor.
The Queen or the Gold Saucer one?
I'm talking about the Queen. Like the Queen, I was like, oh god, what is going on?
Have you done the Gold Saucer final Queen's Blood minigame yet?
I'm getting to that point in the
dude.
in this thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not ready. Trust me, I'm not ready, dude. I'm not ready the slightest. But I'm excited because I really love Queen's Blood, so I'm looking forward to the Vince. Yeah, no man, like.
I here's the thing. I've already like done every minigame on hard, like everything else. So like the only thing I would have left is like hard mode and the combat challenges.
Gotcha.
Some of those minigames, oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
Like okay. Look, let me just ask you outright because I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
What was the hardest minigame for you? It was like exhausting. I
think so far because I haven't gotten to like the Gears one. I haven't done that one on hard yet. And I know that one was pretty challenging there at the end. So far,
it's pretty doable.
I would say Fort Condor on that final level on hard mode was pretty difficult. Chocobo Racing because I played the final stretch of that over Wi-Fi when I was in a hotel, and so I couldn't get the timing right. It was really hard. It was really, really hard. I was remote playing Chocobo Racing, and it was near impossible.
Yeah.
It was nearly impossible.
It is crazy. Like, the final races of Chocobo Racing, you cannot make a mistake.
A mistake, period, bro.
Period. Yeah, you just have to reset.
Yeah. Yep. For the Shinra middle manager guy, like, dude, those were nearly impossible. They were so hard.
The thing is, though, it's like, with Far Condor, I struggled a lot on hard at first, and then I remembered the strategy of the original game to actually beat Far Condor is just spam. Just spam units. Literally just spam a bunch of attack units and the enemy just can't recover. And I beat first try.
Oh, nice.
Like all the Harma ones. And it's just like, I love the fact that the strat from the original game still plays here. For example, in the Shinra Mansion, you know when you have to find the code to open the vault?
The same code?
I was like, is it the same code? Because I played recently, I inputted the same code without even doing the minigame. I'm like, oh my god, it worked.
It's the same code,
Yeah.
bro. I was so
Same
shook.
code, bro.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is why this game is magical. It's
Yeah.
stuff like this.
I will say this is a good point of a criticism of how the game is very hand-holdy, because in the original, the code was very complex to get. Maybe a bit too cryptic, but I kind of like that. In this game, it's just right on the wall.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
just
like-
break the boxes, and there it
Yeah,
is.
and it's like, I do kind of wish that they played a bit more around that, because it's like Explorer stuff. Yeah, I would have liked a bit more like non-linearity, because, for example, in the Cave of the Key, there's this point where it's literally the first temple from Ocarina of Time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, why the
Yep.
4 torches?
Yep.
But like, 3 of the torches are already lit. You basically just have to like go for one final torch. It's like, man, you could have had like 4 like things and like, let me get the order. But
Yeah.
but still, with the mini games, at least for me, the hardest ones, to go back to that, would be the piano, first of all.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
the
getting
hardest.
stars.
That's the hardest. You're right. The piano.
Yeah.
That's the hardest.
If we include the stars,
Yeah.
getting a rank is pretty
Right.
doable, but the stars is really hard.
Right.
Thankfully, the final 2 optional music sheets are not required for like stars, because it doesn't like show up in like the thing that the guy gives you. So I don't consider those necessary for 100%, and I'm glad, because those would actually be impossible. Those are difficult.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, it's a slightly long list, but it's like the Chocobo gliding minigame at Cosmo Canyon took me 3 hours.
Dude, because that mini game.
Repressed trauma, like
Dude,
Cloud.
I literally did the Cloud thing. And I shoved that to the back of my memory. Oh,
Yeah.
man, bro. Dude, that one was... I mean, I got the hang of it eventually, but those first, like, 15 tries, I almost, like, threw my controller.
Bro, first 150, dude. Like it's the final bits of the second and third challenge that you
Yep.
had to nail perfectly
Yep.
to like every circle and stuff. And then on top of it, there's just like a bunch of ours, just like man, the character challenges on hard. It wasn't even like too hard, but it was just, it's like the Coral Proto Relic, but it was just like, okay, I'm done with this. Now I can big Gilgamesh. It's just like, hard mode unlocked.
Yep.
I'm like, fine. And it took me like 2 hours, and it's just like,
Yeah. See, I thankfully I left the hard mode proto relics for the hard mode playthrough. So
I should have.
I'm
should've.
scared for when I get to the Cactuar one again. Oh man. On hard
Okay.
mode.
Here's the thing. Literally, I looked up guides, and they tell me, oh, just do it in hard mode. Because here's the thing: the capture stuff, it scales on level. If you have high attack, you can kill them faster.
Gotcha.
So it's actually gonna be a lot more doable in hard mode. Doing it in normal, it's like, oh my god,
Right.
I just can't deal enough damage. Right, I
Yep.
was just barely able to do it. I was like,
I'm very much looking forward to when I get to the end of the combat simulator, playing all of those on hard, because that's what took me the longest on remake and intergrade. That was like half my playthrough was beating those on hard. So I'm looking forward to seeing how difficult it's going to be here in this one.
dude, it's kind of part of what is discouraged me a bit as well from doing hard mode, because I've heard the hardest challenge. I mean, I won't spoil for you if you don't want to, but it's literally the most insane marathon possible.
Oh,
just
another
something
boss
just doesn't
rush.
feel fun.
Good lord.
It takes 1 hour per attempt.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go from having a near 200-hour thing to like a 400-hour playthrough just on that event.
Yeah, basically.
Oh god.
That's the thing. Like, I think that's going to discourage, because, like, would you say that hard mode is very challenging for like the main story? Because I've heard it's pretty doable.
Oh yeah, it's been very doable. The one that I struggled with so far, I'm on towards the end of chapter 7 on hard mode right now. The hardest boss that I faced so far was Genova Emergent at the end of chapter 5. And that was mainly due to the moves that can one-shot you. But once you figure out how to stop those moves, it's just a matter of being tedious until you get to the
final
end of
boss. I feel like it sounds like such a pain to do in hard mode.
it. Dude, I died like 50 times on the final boss on Dynamic. I can't even imagine how difficult it's going to be on hard mode.
Here's the thing. I turned the final boss to easy.
Oh, okay.
before going into it because I knew like I don't want to interrupt the emotions I'm feeling now.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, you must have gone through the Aerith scene, like the Riku scene in Kingdom Hearts.
Bro, I went through it so many times. Like, you have no idea. Bro, especially when Aerith entering the battlefield, I saw that scene like 100 times because I just kept Sephiroth kept one-shotting me at the end with his Octo Slash every
Literally,
single time.
The thing about it as well is just like so annoying, and the thing is like this is small pet peeve, but I really hate the fact that the game has insta-kill moves.
Yeah.
That can still insta-kill you when you're wearing the prevents insta-kill moves accessory.
Right.
Because instant death and spamming 10,000 damage count as like different values, which is so silly, man. I have the instant death accessory, bro.
It frustrated me so much when I got to the end and I was like, okay, I'm saving Planet's protection. It literally negates physical damage. I'm not gonna die. He still kills me with Octo Slash Prime. I'm like, what is going on?
That's just stupid, man. And the thing is, like, I just reawakened the repressed memory of the combat for the final side quest.
Oh yeah.
Literally, I think like the mission is called the clowns take the stage.
Yes.
It's literally it's like how can we like take like the most annoying fight, like the most annoying enemy combinations possible.
Dude, those took me a while on dynamic.
Yeah.
I can't imagine on hard mode, but on dynamic those took me a while for sure.
I would never like I don't think I would have been able to beat that if I didn't realize that the instant death accessory gives you immunity to tom berries. Because having to face the 10 tom berries at once.
Yeah, dude.
Like, oh my. It's like I saw like the 10 tom berries like appear on like in my mind with like dun 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 da da da.
It literally is like fighting 10 Sephiroths. That's crazy. It actually is insane. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do the weapons in part 3 because those were always the hardest fights for me in the original. So like Ruby
I still
weapon.
haven't beaten them.
Oh, you still haven't beaten them, dude? Ruby.
I've never 100%. Here's the thing.
Right.
I played the original game once, and I've replayed Disc 1 like 5 times.
Okay.
But I can never finish it because emotionally I just can't. I got too overwhelmed.
Gotcha. Yeah, like so.
It's such a deep experience, right? So I've never 100% the original, and like this is the time like where I've wanted to commit to it, and I've been debating if like I want to like finish 100% the original now because I got to the City of the Ancients as well,
right?
Or wait until like the third game, but I will do it.
Yeah.
So I am actually kind of excited to see like some of that final stuff because I heard the weapons are like impossible.
Dude, they are really difficult. Like so for when I was growing up, the legendary stuff would be getting the Knights of the Round because that to me was.
I haven't gotten them either.
Oh yeah, bro, you're gonna have a fun time getting those. Like coolest summon ever.
I have heard like the 10-minute cutscene.
It is. I have an actual video of that on my YouTube channel where I put this is what Zoro versus Kaido is gonna be like, and it's Knights of the Round versus a random dragon on the battlefield.
Yeah.
and so like I really love that summon, but dude, the weapons in the original game, if you play it straight up with like no cheats, at the very least Emerald and Ruby are gonna take you an eternity. They are
level 99?
So difficult. Even level 99, bro. Even level 99. Emerald weapon has so much health, and Ruby weapon can one-shot your whole party. So it's like they both have the things that are very difficult.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know
crazy.
that the remaster does add the limit boost thing.
Yeah.
But like, nah, man, I gotta beat them legit.
Yeah, man. They are very difficult. Very, very, which is why like in the last game, I'm going to assume that they're going to have another boss rush where you face all the weapons at once, and that's going to be nuts.
Don't give them ideas, please.
That's going to be nuts.
That's the thing. It's like Remake was difficult, but I was able to 100% it within like 100 hours. You know, it's like even hard mode and stuff like that. And I feel like hard mode worked better with Remake being like a short game. I feel like here's like more, and it's like, man, this game is just like twice as hard to complete.
Yeah.
The third game, which is where in the original you have to complete the most stuff, like how hard are they gonna make it, bro? That's gonna take like 300 hours.
Seriously. Dude, I have to ask about Remake. Who was the hardest boss for you in Remake?
I'm trying to remember. Like, you mean like hard mode?
Yeah, right. On hard mode or whichever. Like the one that you died to the most. in the original game?
I'll be honest. I found hard mode to be pretty easy doable in remake. Because I felt like I was really vibing with the combat, and I felt like I was like, I don't know, like I almost kind of felt like I could not go back from hard mode.
Oh yeah, I got you. Same here in remake.
But Rufus was just not built for how he was just not play tested. Because he literally can like juggle Cloud. It's like 2 versus 1, and you don't have the other party members that kind of build towards that, you know.
Right.
And I think it's like one of the things that I feel like I'm dreading if I'm gonna go for hard mode, because for example, there's like a section in Nibelheim where you play as Sketchy, and he literally has to fight like some like impossibly hard enemies all on his own when he's like a support buff character. And it's just like,
I'm not looking forward to that either. That's gonna be crazy. I can tell you on my end, so it took me 150 hours to platinum remake. About 50 of those hours, my brother is my witness, took me 3 days. I could not beat Hell House, bro. It was so
okay, that was pretty
hard.
challenging, yeah.
I was there for days, dude. And even when I finally beat him, I beat him barely spamming Bioga until it poisoned itself to death. Like I was, I pretty much.
That's true. Hell House is pretty hard.
I beat Sephiroth pretty easily, beat Rufus pretty easily, beat a lot of the stuff in the game pretty easily. Bro, hard mode Hell House was like,
you know what the problem
millennia.
with Rufus is that you came from the marathon of the drum, so your MP is unlikely to also be high.
Yep.
So it's
that's why I think the final boss is gonna be so hard, because it's like, oh man, my MP just keeps getting drained with every fight.
Wait. In the final boss, your HP and MP is restored automatically.
Right. I'm saying like the entire sequence, like the entire final boss sequence. Thankfully, the final fight, everything resets. But like before that, it's like
no, it doesn't. It does in the middle as well. I remember. In the middle of the Bizarro fight. Well,
with Bizarro Sephiroth as well. Well, I'm looking forward to getting there as well
with
on the hard mode
stuff. But that still sounds like frustrating.
Yeah.
Can you like beat like individual phases? Because I did die to like the Octoslash at the end.
Yeah.
And I placed like a retry, and it put me at the start of the Bizarro fight. And I was like, wait, what?
I think it depends.
I don't know if I clicked the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think you might have clicked on the wrong one.
Wrong thing.
Because when I clicked retry from current battle, it started me from Aerith coming in.
The Aerith.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that was me. Because otherwise, having to do the whole thing in one go, that would have been like hell.
Oh, dude, that would have been hard, especially in hard mode. I would have been like, oh man. Yeah, I think that screen, by the way, that's my biggest criticism of Rebirth, is how bad that restarting the screen is. Like for retry from current battle, retry from before this battle, retry from this. Horrible.
Because the thing was like retry from like previous battle or retry from this battle. This battle means restarting the entire sequence. Previous battle means the checkpoint. What the hell?
Right.
That's what like tripped me.
Right. Yeah. That every single time, like the first time it got me, I think was, don't remember if it was the final fight or the rush at the end of chapter 12. But I remember hitting retry from before this battle, and I was like, I gotta redo the whole thing? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Actually, like what I mentioned before, like the fact that I haven't 100% in the original game, in my original playthrough, because I did it blind, right? I played 100% blind. I didn't know who Vincent was.
Oh, interesting.
I never unlocked him in my original playthrough because... unlocking him is super hard. Like I didn't even notice the note on the ground. I thought it was like off limits.
Right.
I didn't realize you could go into like the round things in the mansion, right where the note is.
Yep.
So I was never able to open the safe, and so I never got Vincent, and I beat the game with only Yuffie. And so it's like now it's kind of extended as well because Vincent is the one character that I don't fully know about the original. I know there's like Lucretia.
Right.
Who like I do kind of understand like she kind of the relationship between like Hojo, Vincent, and her, but it's like. I don't know anything more about that. It's like the fact that there's just still aspects of this game that I still don't know about. It's just so cool.
That actually is really interesting that you bring that up. Like, yeah, if you play through FF7, because for me, because it was a community thing, like I would go to school and people would be like, oh yeah, I did this with Yuffie, and I was like, who is Yuffie? And they're like, yeah, I have to go into the field and get her. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? So it was that kind of experience on my end. So
right.
So being able to go through a whole playthrough without Vincent and like never know this story is. That's really, dude.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to have that experience now and in the last game for sure. So that's really cool.
I do remember seeing him among the characters like when I was like close to being the game and like, so when do we unlock him?
Right.
And I was like, oh, like I should have done a while ago. And it's like I have the game. And obviously, I wanted to play as him. And I remember like actually I got his limit break playing through the original here, and he transforms into Abyss. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yep. Like, wait, what? He can do that?
Yeah. I love how they made that the boss fight in this game. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah, because I was playing like some parts of the original before like the remake ones. So I was like, oh, he can like transform into a beast.
Yeah.
He's got the Zoan fruit.
Yeah, legit, bro. He was the original Zoan fruit user.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so cool.
Right. I mean, I kind of get like part of what you say, the playground experience, because I feel like I've gone that with like a lot of other things as well. But yeah, FF7 was something that I did kind of experience completely blindly.
For sure, yeah, and it's also the same thing of like, whenever you're growing up and you're watching, I don't know, you're watching or playing, I don't know, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon. It's like all this stuff is always out of order. That like while playing through FF7 originally, it was that type of some kid would come to school and be like, yeah, you can play as Sephiroth, and you're like, what? There's no way. And then like they were technically right because you get to play as them in Nibelheim.
Right.
But like everybody was, because back in the day, people could say a whole bunch of stuff, especially kids on the playground, and they'd be like, yeah, Aerith lives. Are you kidding me? All you gotta do is like press square 5 times and triangle. It's like, what are you talking about, kid? It's like,
what's the funniest thing is that you can literally glitch the game to make her live. So that kid was technically right.
True. Yep. Good point.
If you use certain glitches and exploits, you can keep her alive in your party.
Right. But
so it's like, there's technically an element to truth. You know what? Like, actually, I had a very similar experience with another video game, which was it's kind of similar in a sense because do you know Rayman?
Yes. Yeah.
Rayman 3 was like my childhood game because I, like, and a lot of kids at like school, like, really loved it. And Rayman 3 is like a platformer, right? Mm-hmm. It's not even a massive platform. It's a 3D platform, but it's like 10, 15 hours long. Mm-hmm. It has something like 10 worlds, and each world takes like a couple of hours. But the thing is, as kids, we suck so much at the game that we like never got past like the first like 4 or 5 worlds. And I think we also had like a problem with the save data, where it's like every time we had to play from the start.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like you said, it's like kind of like the memory card thing with like the Shinra stuff. And I remember, like, I have this core memory as a kid of like finding a guide on Game Facts, like, one of those like text guys were done like ASCII that explained how to beat the future levels. And reading through the descriptions of the future levels, like I was reading like Odin's Journal,
Yeah, right.
And be like, wow, there's like a snowy mountain with all these enemies, and just imagine. And then years later, finally getting to like get the game myself because I was playing it with a friend at his house, and getting to play through those levels myself, I was like, oh my god! Like, actually, it's like, like getting to see these levels, and it felt like something mystical because I think this was like even pre-YouTube days and everything, and it's like, and it's so funny, just like the fact that like a Game Facts like walkthrough was just like this like holy script of just describing future levels that I didn't know existed, and I can only imagine the magic of like experiencing something like FF7 like that.
Yeah, man, it's exactly what you just said, and I also had that with multiple different games. But like when you do it in a game like this from that's such a heavily single player where you go out and explore and stuff. Like,
I do kind of miss the fact that when I first played FF7, there were a couple times where I got stuck and I just used the guide. And I do kind of wish I had been a bit stubborn and tried to like do everything myself because like, and I almost kind of wish like, a part of me like I had like that younger experience of like not knowing how to progress an area, and maybe you're stuck on it for like a month.
Right.
But then you finally find out like that thing.
Right.
And you can just progress through it, right?
Right.
Because I had like something like that a bit with like Ocarina of Time when I was younger, something like that.
Another great experience. Yeah.
Exactly, and like I can only imagine like you not knowing how to go through an area, and then like a friend at school tells you like, "Yo, you gotta like talk to this NPC," and then you do it, it's like, "Oh my god!" and you just discover this whole other thing.
Yep. The most recent thing I had with that was Elden Ring. That was the last game that all of my friends that I speak to on a normal basis they got, And literally that entire month, we were all just sending screenshots. Oh, where did you get that item? How did you get there? How did you get over here? And it was that playground experience all over again. We were like, oh man,
I love that. Elden Ring was
cool.
incredible, specifically because of that. Just getting to share those experiences is like, oh man, I kind of fun. And similarly, like I said, it's the reason why I loved Octopath Traveler so much, Octopath 2, because it's literally that. It's that Elden Ring experience.
Oh, dude, you're selling me on it. I haven't played Octopath Traveler 2 yet. I've only played the first one.
Trust me, you should. Have you played the first one?
Yeah, I love the first one. I have it on Switch.
Dude, the two is so much better in every single way. Like legitimately, they took everything from the original game and improved it in such ways you couldn't even imagine.
Wow.
And it's like the original game almost feels like a demo. It feels like a tech demo by comparison. It is insane.
It's like remake to rebirth type of thing. Like it's
bigger. Like
bigger?
literally.
Oof.
Octopath 2 is the biggest sequel glow up I've ever seen in a video game.
Oh wow.
Straight up.
Wow.
And like here's the thing. Like honestly, at first I was like, okay, recency bias.
Right.
You know, I gotta give it time. A year later, I can't stop thinking of it. I think it's in my top 10 games of all time.
Oh wow.
It's that good.
Yeah.
Like it's just, to me, it captures the magic that the original FF7 had, which just you have this open world where you can literally go anywhere, you can do anything, like in Octopath, but it's just so much more natural, and there's just unknown stuff. There's just completely unique gameplay stuff, right? It's like it has that Elden Ring where you could just fight this random boss, right? It's like this the thing that I love from Octopath is that before you face an optional boss, you get like just a text prompt screen that says you're feeling an overwhelming sense of danger. I think you're like da 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 da, like you're just like walking through the overworld. Oh, you see a hole. You look into the hole, you fall down. It's like da 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 da, like this monster appears.
Gotcha.
There's so many unique things. There's like
cool.
a point in the game like where you can buy a boat and then you go to the open sea and it's Wind Waker. And there's just a bunch of islands to explore, and there's just so many things to do, and it was just like that sense of wonder and discovery, and like the way they did the side quests in Octopath, where it's literally this thing where like when you do a side quest, the NPC will like request something from you, and that's all you get. And you get like a quest log, but in the quest log you only get like the text of what the NPC told you. As you can have like a character that tells you like, I want to meet my mother again, right? But that's it. You don't get a marker, you don't get the thing. And so you travel the world, you go to another town, and you hear rumors of a woman who lost her son from like another town. And then you go to that town and you're like, you remember. And it does this thing naturally. There's just so many things where it's so creative in the way that it just has you experience things naturally without ever making you feel like you're stuck. Right? But you always kind of like, you get that intuitiveness. Just like a side quest where you go to a restaurant and there's like a guy who says he agreed to meet him with his twin at the restaurant, right? But he didn't show up. And he's like, well, we were agreed to meet here, but he's not here. And you go back to him day or night. It's always there, but you don't know where the other one is. But then you realize the one during the day and the one during the night are the opposite twin brothers, and they just got the time wrong. But it looks like the same NPC because they're twins. They just have slightly different clothing, and until you'll realize that, you can't solve the side quest. Every side quest is like that. Every like story portion, and like every boss has a unique mechanic. Every single thing feels like a unique set pieces, and the story is like 10 times better than Octopath 1. It is insane.
Dude, no, you're selling me on it, man. I'm so excited. I'm excited to go on it.
And getting to share that experience with like other players, and like with a bunch of friends, and just discovering stuff, like you said, like that Elden Ring thing. It's just a work with that magic of like FF7, you know, and like and Octopath is technically like a Final Fantasy spin-off because it kind of started that way from Bravely Default, and it's the type of thing where it's like, man, like this is just the magic that I love from like Final Fantasy. It's just, it encapsulates so well. And like I have this like core memory as well of like you know, the game is pretty doable, but there's a have you been in the original Octopath?
I have beaten the original Octopath, yeah.
So you know, like the final boss is like super hard, right?
Right.
So in this game, they made the final boss is pretty doable. You know, it's slightly challenging, but it's pretty doable. But instead, they added an optional super boss that is even harder than the first one. Right, than the one of the first game, which is like, it's like that Rebirth thing where like you need to have your characters fully optimized and perfectly know every single mechanic. And I have this memory where I took like a bunch of friends in a server, and I like live stream. I didn't even live stream. I just took screenshots and I said them, and we did a war council of strategizing what moves to take ahead of time, and we spent
That's
1
awesome.
1 hour on the first turn.
Oh my god.
Just how to open the boss fight, because it was so critical, right? I was like, oh, we could use like Seltage's seduction to double the turn of this other character, and then they can use this item here. No, but with that, and that was so much fun. And it was like 4 or 5 hours of just strategizing how to beat this boss, and we got it first try, and we were just like cheering by the end. It's like, man, I love this stuff.
Dude.
I just like this for the last.
Dude, I'm definitely gonna get it. Like I told Roger.
Yeah. Let me know when you play it, please.
I told Roger I wanted to play Triangle Strategy because I've heard good things about that.
It's just so good.
And
it's like Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's what I've heard, bro, and I love tactics. So I'm
good.
definitely not with your recommendation. I'll definitely be getting Octopath because after Stellar Blade comes out, there's gonna be a good amount of. I should have 7 Rebirth Platinum by then. And there's going to be a good like space
copium
between that and a Thousand Year Door. So I was like, I need another game.
Oh, Thousand Year Door is also coming.
I can't wait. Yeah, that's super copium, bro. Because there's no way I'm beating that boss.
Yeah.
That boss. There's no
Exactly. Team Asano like doesn't miss. They did Triangle Strategy and Octo's Traveler back to back.
Wow.
And they're like both amazing.
Yeah.
One is literally like Final Fantasy Tactics with such a good game, but the other like Octopath is just amazing.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, let me know if you do get around to it, because I'd love to talk with you about it as well.
I was gonna ask how long both games. How long did it take you to beat them at least, like with all side stuff and everything?
The thing was, like, with Octopath, the fact is that it really is as long as you want it to make.
Right.
Because you can literally just do one of the 8 routes,
and
that's it. That can be, like, an experience itself. And that can, like, take, like, 10, 20 hours. Or you can try, like, doing all the routes, and, like, generally that's, like, 50, 70 hours.
Right.
And then you can, like, go 100%, like, do all the side quests, do all the stuff, and do everything, and, like, take 100 hours. The thing is, like, with Octopath, it's the one video game where I actually refuse to fast travel.
Oh, interesting.
Because I enjoyed so much moving around the world. And the best thing is, like, it's not the type of thing like, oh, I need to do this side quest in this town I was before, I'm just going to walk back there. It's like, no. When I'm back there for story reasons, I'll do that side quest. But until then, I'm not, like, retouching the continent. And it almost felt like real life, you know, where it's like, oh, I wish I could go back to this place, but, you know, obviously I'll get around to it when I do. And the game is structured in a way where you can, like, go from, like, continent to continent, or, like, not revisit towns for, like, 30 hours until the game requires you to go back there, because everything is just built so naturally. You know, it's just, there's, like, a progression, because it's open world, right? It's like, you can first do this continent, but then you do this continent, and you go back to the other one, but then it's like, oh, you finally go back to this town, and now there's still, like, a bunch of side and stuff. And so because of that, I didn't feel the need to fast travel, because it's like, I wanted to feel like I was on this journey.
For sure.
And you know, that extended, like, I think I have, like, 180 hours, but that's just because, like, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with Rebirth. Is like, I'm the type of person who sometimes will just spend like an hour just walking around the town. Like,
oh, me too. Me too. That's why, like, I have 150 hours on Yakuza Infinite Wealth that came out earlier this year, and I'm about to have like 200 on Rebirth.
How are you playing all these games? There's so many good JRPGs coming out. There's also like, I played through Granblue Fantasy Relink, and which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
That was like a really fun experience, and I went through all the online with some friends. That took me like 80 hours to complete.
Oh wow!
And now, like, I want to play Persona 3 Reload, but it's like, bro, I don't.
Greatness.
I'm saving. I have to save up Reload until I'm like done with these things now, because I don't have time for it, man.
Yeah,
it's
man.
Too much.
No, I completely understand. Like, I always tell people, I would not finish any of these games if I didn't have the remote play available for me. Like, I played so much of Yakuza and Rebirth. And even Persona 3, especially, through the use of when I was not home. Like, most of my, I think chapter 11 and 12, most of chapter 12, I did it not at home for FF7 Rebirth. And so it's like, it's that type of thing where, because I'm not home for work or for school or whatever, and I take this thing for me, and specifically I was on vacation throughout that week. So I went to the hotel, hooked this thing up to my data plan, or to my cell data, and just played it off that. And I was like, man, Like the stuff I do for these games is
Yeah.
is insane. But
You can't break the addiction. I mean, in my
Right.
case, for example, I have like a more flexible schedule, but it was the type of thing where I was just like, there's like one day after the goal, so I was like, okay, I'll take like a day off as a break.
Mhm.
But then I'm like, oh, I want to go
Yep.
back.
Yep. Yep. I'm telling you.
It's been a month straight.
I'm telling you, bro. Like,
This has been so addicting.
yeah, man. It's like Rebirth. Literally, like going to work and then coming home, and I would look at my thing. I'm like, all right, I gotta get schoolwork done. I gotta play some Rebirth. I don't care if it's 15 minutes of me traversing the open world. I gotta get it done. I still feel that way now, even 170 hours in.
These chapters are like of One Piece. These weeks have been peak.
Yes.
And I've loved doing analysis for them. But I was like, okay, right now I'm gonna go finish editing the video and publish it. I will not touch Rebirth until I finish editing the video.
Yep.
I will not touch Rebirth until I finish editing the video.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of times that I during the experience I would go on to talk to everyone on the live stream, be like, guys, this stream almost didn't happen. I was on the game going ham.
I had to force myself to like make those videos, bro. I love these chapters.
Me
but
too.
It's like, man.
Me too. Like, where we're at in One Piece right now is absolutely insane. But it's like the greatness that just goes to show, like you said earlier, how much of a masterpiece this is. That our favorite series of all time, One Piece, is delivering at the highest level, and it takes discipline for us to do what we want to do for the series.
Yeah, like,
it's crazy.
Here's the thing: with the first chapters, maybe not as much because of what was happening. But I remember like the last chapter, I was like, "Oh yeah, new One Piece chapter tomorrow." That's right. I almost forgot. With the original FF7, I forgot about One Piece.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
Like during like that month that I played, it was just like.
I can imagine.
Like like I stopped like uploading my analysis like at that point because it's just like I was just too enraptured.
Yeah.
And I went back to them. Of course, it was just like
For sure.
it just kind of like whisked away. Actually, but what you asked before, on the other hand, triangle strategy is way faster.
Okay.
But the thing is, like triangle strategy has 4 routes.
Gotcha. Oh,
it's
is it
basically-
kind of like Fire Emblem Three Houses then, in that type of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
Gotcha.
basically, you have 3 routes. The difference with 3 houses is that in triangle strategy, the routes is determined by the decisions you do across the game, and then it's chosen at the end.
Gotcha.
But you get like several split paths all along the way, and there's like a whole like split map. But like, for example, at first, do you attack this country or do you not? Then if you attack this country, you can do these 2 things, or if you don't, there's these 2 other things. But then it just kind of intertwines, and there's like 3 possible endings, and then there's like the true ending route, which you basically just have to do like a bunch of requirements. It's literally impossible without a guide, but basically you just get all the requirements and then you get like the special good ending. Personally speaking, I would only recommend doing like 1 blind playthrough and then like a new game plus to get like the true ending, because like the other 2, you can even like just like set up a save file to just reload the other 2 endings at the end.
Gotcha.
I did all 4 routes because I wanted to like 100% and get like all characters and things, but it is the type of thing like at that point, it does become like a 100-hour game. But 1 route alone is like 40, 50 hours, and then New Game Plus is like way faster. Like each route is like 10, 20 hours.
Okay. You see, because I've been in the mood for a tactical game, I might go to strategy first. Once I finish that.
But Octopath as well is like
No, I'm excited for both. Trust me, I've been hearing about both for quite some time, and since I'm always involved in the JRPG space, whenever I talk about what I'm experiencing, I always hear people bring up Octopath 2 as being a great experience, as well as Triangle Strategy.
And they're technically both Final Fantasy spin-offs, so
right.
Like you can feel like obviously it's a completely unique world.
Yeah.
They both take place in the same world, even if it is like associated very, very loosely.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of the type of thing where you can feel like that Final Fantasy inspiration. It's like, and it's in small details. But for example, in Octopath, the battle fanfare when you win is the Final Fantasy one. It's like,
oh, that's so cool. That is so
like
cool.
it's obviously it's a different remix where it sounds slightly different, but it's like the same like beat of notes.
Wait, was it like that in the first one too?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I honestly don't remember. Oh, man.
It's like da 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 da.
You're
da, da,
right.
da, 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 da,
I didn't put that together. That's so true. Yeah.
Even the battle theme is actually like slightly remixed off of the main Final Fantasy battle theme that kind of evolves around the games.
That actually makes a lot of sense, because whenever I first went through Octopath, I was like, man, this is like, it reminded me so much of Final Fantasy VI in regards to its aesthetic. But I was like, man, now that you put the music there, I can most certainly see it. I mean, it's Square that's making it, obviously, but it's like, that's awesome.
And also the thing, 100%, I would highly recommend playing Octopath 2 on PS5.
Okay.
Rather than Switch.
Okay.
Because the visual glow up is insane.
Okay.
Like here's the thing, Octopath 1 was a beautiful game, would you agree? Mm-hmm. It looks garbage when compared to 2 on like the PS5.
Oh man.
Because they like the HDR on the PS5 for Octopath 2 is so insanely good that it's just like, I remember playing the demo on Switch and it's like, man, this just looks washed out by comparison.
Right. I'm gonna have to.
It is like.
Matter of fact, hold on. Let me go to my PlayStation Store right now. Let me turn it on and see.
Yeah, I mean, like later, for example, like in like here's like some images of the game.
Ooh, yeah, that looks beautiful. Really beautiful.
Yeah. The dynamic lighting with the HDR was just incredible.
Any scene in a room like this, it already gets beat. Like, because of Loveless, because of FF6, because of Final Fantasy 9, because of Trails. I'm like, I'm ready. Oh, that looks so good, dude.
Yeah, so good. It's incredible. Like, compared to like the first game, it's such a glow up in there's a visuals. Yeah. And I remember like as well, like thinking with Octopath, like this is kind of what I always wished a One Piece game would be like. It's just, you just go onto a world and you just explore, like just pure freedom. You're like making your own story.
You're selling me, bro. I might, because I was thinking about buying the Grandia 2 and Grandia 1 remaster that just dropped. I might get that and Octopath 2 at this point. Because, man, look at how good this looks.
Trust me.
It looks so good.
It's insane. Like, it's just... like, Octopath 2 is, like, one of those, like, ultra-rare games where I was ultra-hyped for this. Yeah. Like, this was probably, like, my most anticipated game in, like, forever, because I love Octopath 1 so much. And there was a part of me, like, it can't live up to the hype.
Oh, yep.
And it surpassed the hype.
Yep.
Like, twice. It was just, how?
Yeah.
How can a game be this good?
Yeah, gotcha.
There's so many, like, little changes that make it so much better. Because, like, in Octopath 1, with, like, the Hunter, you can, like, catch monsters.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, you can only use each monster, like, a certain number of times, right?
Right.
In Octopath 2, they changed it, where you capture a monster, that's it. They're on your party permanently. But you can only get up to 6. So it's literally Pokemon. The Hunter, it's literally playing Pokemon. And you can catch every monster animal in the game, even the bosses. Which is like just insanity. You can get some of the, obviously not the human bosses for ethical reasons, but you can catch like the monster bosses, and some of them are so busted. It is so much fun. It is crazy. It's like you're like fighting like a level 1 slime, and you just unleash this like massive like Chitulu monster. And it's just they made it so much better. It's legitimately it has been like one of the best gaming experiences I've had recently. And I will say this, even this is more personal. I think I even maybe kind of enjoyed it more than Rebirth, but for different reasons.
For different reasons. Gotcha.
Rebirth has just been so much more emotional.
Right.
So much more like I just feel like Octopath is just like a better like game sort of at its core. But it's like, I think it's something that I will also say, like sort of thinking between the original FF7 and like Remake and Rebirth and everything, where I would still argue on a personal level that I think that FF7 is a better package.
Gotcha.
It's also like a complete package, right? Like these are 3 games, all things considered. And I think it's like, as much as I think like it is such a special experience to play through these games, I do feel that if I play through all 3 of them at once, I would feel a bit of burnout. I kind of felt that a bit when I played Fire Emblem Fates, which is a game I really love. But those are 3 games, and by the end of the second, I was just like, I'm gonna need some months, because and it took me 5 years to beat the final game.
Oh man,
which was so getting to see the final boss in a game after 5 years is just like an experience.
That's how I felt with Sephiroth, dude. I didn't see the original FF7 Sephiroth for years.
Well, I beat FF7 in 3 weeks. So it's like already different contrast,
Yep.
And that's the thing, it's like I do feel like the original is a better package, but it is something that it made me think about a question and it's something I would like to ask you in a moment
Mm-hmm.
after I say what I think of it, about like if I had like a brand new player or a friend who asked me, what would I recommend them they should play first, the original FF7 or the remake trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, with the remake, for me the answer was very obvious. It was the original, because the things that remake did, I felt like you could only appreciate to a certain extent if you played the original, and I feel like almost in a sense some of the things that remake did would be a bit more ruined if you didn't play the original, stuff like that. But with Rebirth, it's like, damn man, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably the original, but like, man, imagine experiencing all these emotions for the first time in this way.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so what do you think?
So
I would actually pose. Sorry, I would pose this question on two different conditions. What would you recommend right now, with only these two games out, and what would you recommend once all three games are out?
that's a great question. So I recently just got asked this because me and my buddy,
Right.
he's trying to get me to play all three Xenoblades, and
Yeah.
in exchange for him playing FF7. So he asked me like, what should I do, original or the game? And my thing is always the same for anyone, and that is, it depends on what type of player you are, because obviously there's a lot of people who will never go back to those old games. They just find no enjoyment in them. So for those people, I would say, remake 100%. Just get your foot in the door, so that you can experience the fun combat, see these lovable characters, see a story that is absolutely incredible. I saw so many people who could not get into the original game that got in through remake, then played the original game, and so that's always
it's the
an
One Piece
avenue.
live action effect.
Right. Like it's that type of thing. So if I know someone plays retro games, I will definitely recommend FF7 first, because I feel like you will always appreciate remake and rebirth more with that context. It'll be a generational experience, going through remake and rebirth after FF7. And so if you enjoy playing old games, go that. If you do not enjoy playing old games, then just play remake and rebirth, because even though they do change quite a bit in regards to, I mean, not necessarily change, but there's certain things that are there that allow for tonal shifts. They're not in the original game. But what they do have are the characters and the adventure that is just like the original game. And so if that's what you're going into it for, then 100% just hop right into the PS5 version. But if you do want to, like if somebody does enjoy retro games, and I know them as someone who values games as literature, as storytelling devices, I would tell them definitely the original first, and then go into the other ones. But if they're not that type of person, then just play remake and rebirth, because you're gonna get the gist of it. Anything that you don't get, you're gonna be able to go back to the original game and play and see. And also, remake and rebirth just do such an exceptional job capturing the characters that I feel like if this is their first exposure, as I've seen through multiple people, they will become obsessed with these characters and want to find out more.
Yeah.
So that's normally how it works.
That's a really good answer. Like, honestly, like, the thing as well is, like, I mean, you mentioned, like, some people think that, like, FF7 has aged a bit. But the thing is, like, replaying through this game, especially through the remaster, like, not, like, the PS1, like, 32-bit that originally done later, I'm like, man, this game has aged, like, really nicely, actually.
Really nicely. I'm playing through it again right now, and trust me, it has aged beautifully.
Like, I mean, the gameplay and the story, I still feel they're ahead of their time. But, like, even visually, I feel like by not going hyper-realistically and sticking to a bit of, like, a more cartoonish art style,
100%.
He has managed to stand it down real well. Like, those pre-rendered backgrounds belong on a museum, man.
Yeah, man.
And it's something that I will actually slightly criticize about Rebirth and, like, Remake. And it's the fact that I feel that committing to a more hyper-realistic engine, I felt this back in 2020, I felt was a risky bet, because it's like, 10 years from now or 8 years from now, once the final game is out, this is going to look a bit dated already. It's going to, like, age, and it's going to age more easily, and I feel like right now, even with the HDR, the 4K, and how beautiful some locations really are, with some of the character models, the NPCs and stuff, it does feel like it has already started to age a bit, and I feel like I wish they would have made it slightly more stylized and cartoonish rather than so Unreal Engine like, because there are some spots where it does look a bit weird, especially with like the lighting. But I heard like that is gonna get fixed with like patches and stuff a bit more.
Yeah, they talked about that.
Because like the lighting in some parts, it's like you walk out, it's just
blinding.
It is
blinding, dude.
And it's like playing this on an OLED TV. It was just like, oh my god, this is hurting my eyes because it feels like I'm outside during like a sunny day.
For sure.
And then I walk indoors and it's literally just pitch black, and it's like,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, it's such a nitpick in the end, but yeah, it's kind of type of thing.
No, yeah.
But the thing with like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But the thing with like, between the original and like Remake and Rebirth is the type of thing where like you kind of mentioned that some people struggle to get into like maybe the original because it has age and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that some people like would struggle to get into like Remake, Rebirth, and Reunion because these are full-blown like massive JRPGs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I think telling someone to play like 3 massive RPGs in a row compared to a 40-hour pretty accessible RPG, all things considered, is almost kind of like a bit daunting, Mm-hmm. It's almost like a universe where the One Piece live action was like 200 episodes,
Right.
Instead of just the 8, it's just that's like a lot more. Or it's like the One Piece anime, right?
Yeah.
The One Piece anime is more accessible because it is more dynamic for people than the manga. Mm-hmm. But then it's just 1,000 episodes. So I can't convince anyone to do that.
I'll give you the example of one of my boys, who he does not play retro games. He's like, I already played those in the past. Unless I played them myself, like, I'm not ever gonna go back to that. So I got him in the door through Remake, and he still hasn't finished it. But even when we talk about now, he's like, dude, I really love that game. I love that experience. Love those characters. It was so much fun. And he's not a story, like, he hates stories in games. He's one of those guys that plays like
after someone is Magic Man,
like just hates, or I'm sorry, like just plays like, I don't know, multiplayer games, whatever the case may be, just does not like. But I remember following his experience going through Remake, and he was one of those guys like me that going through the flower fields with Aerith. He was like, dude, I'm feeling something right now. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, dude, that's what stories and games do to you. And he was like, no. Yeah, so
honestly, I've heard of so many people that have experienced like FF7 who like just don't really care about stories in gaming, and it's just like then it just feels so invested.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like it's one of those things like kind of like One Piece where I feel like only the few people that really try to stop and think about like the themes of the game really, maybe get some of the deeper messages and stuff.
Right.
But the general just feel and the general message, most people get it.
For sure. 100%. It's the magic of having a series or a story that you can understand on the surface level for those who only want to be invested to that point, but for those who want to go deeper, there's a lot there for you to unpack, and the best stories have that.
Yeah, I think that's the key to establishing good theming into a story, because I think it's like something that One Piece does really well, because if you go very thick with the subtext, it can come off as overwhelming for some, players or readers. But also, if you remove a lot of subtext, the story can just feel very hollow, right? And it's like, stories should have some depth to it, right? Or it should try to like make you feel something. So I feel like the perfect balance is just having it be accessible, like something like One Piece, where it's like, you can literally just look at One Piece like, whoa, Luffy's the superhero who punches the evil guy. But then you can go into it and you can realize like, government, corruption, racism, humanity, freedom, equality, all of these things,
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's like, sometimes with something like that, maybe you get people that still don't get the message and stuff, but I still feel like the large majority of people who experience this works just get it on a fundamental level, even if they can't put words into it, but they get the idea.
It just depends on what you're going into it for, right? Like like I said earlier, when I was younger, I didn't know any better or anything. Like I loved FF7. I loved all of that stuff because Cloud looked cool and everything about the game was cool. Everything about that, everything about Advent Children, them in Kingdom Hearts. I was like, this is my jam. Like, this is so cool. It's fun to play. And there's so many people who, like myself, got into it in that way. And then as I got older and I played through the game again, and I was like, wait, am I killing the environment? Wait. Identity and trauma and everything's gonna be okay, and it's like that to me is the beauty about these stories where, like you said, with One Piece, and there's a lot of series like this as well, where even with One Piece to a certain extent, that's why because whenever I got into the series, I was still in that stage in my life where I was like, yeah, man, I can't wait to see Luffy beat this guy, then beat this guy, then beat this guy. And I'll never forget where that changed for me. Was even though I understood beneath the surface there was a lot of greatness that was being built up in Arlong Park. Drum Island made me cry like a baby. Even in Alabasta, where I was like, I love this. But it wasn't until I reached that Jaya Skypiea Water 70s lobby stretch where it genuinely changed the course of my life after that, where I was like, oh wow, this is what stories are capable of. Like, up until that point, I didn't really... It never really changed my brain chemistry. Nothing really changed my brain chemistry the way that those two arcs did. And it allowed me to look at everything else in the series through that lens of like, oh man. So it's like, there's also like we talked about with my friend earlier, the guy who comes in expecting one thing, gets out of it like, oh wow, my life has been changed. I look at this completely different now.
For me with One Piece, for example, like, I'm 25. Yeah. When I first caught up to One Piece, it was like Thoroughbark, Sabaody, right? But I was like 7, 10, right? It's like I don't understand. And that's the thing. It's not like I got to a certain point in the story. It's just like several years passed. And as I reread One Piece, I appreciate it more. And I remember like Fishman Island coming out and rereading that bit as it was serializing and after it's serialized. And I remember just realizing like, oh, that's why Hody Jones was such a disappointing villain, because that's the point. That's kind of the whole thing. And it's just like Fishman Island and the whole story of the Dohime generally kind of changed my life and my perspective on a lot of things. And it's just, and the crazy thing is, this isn't like a one-time thing. It's not you're a kid and then you're an adult, and when you're an adult you have like that epiphany,
right?
And that's it. Like it continues going, and that's the thing with FF7 as well.
Yep.
I don't have that moment of playing FF7 as a kid because I first played when I was 17. But because of that, it also like affected me in a time of my life where I really needed it. You know?
Right.
But then now I'm playing through Rebirth at age 25.
Yeah.
7 years later, and it's like, oh man, like. I'm rediscovering new things and having a deeper appreciation. It's not that I didn't look at the story deeply before, but now I can look at it even more deeply because I've grown even more as a person. And it's a process that never ends.
Dude.
And I love that.
Dude, that is so cool. Our journeys are in reverse. Like, I grew up with FF7. You grew up with One Piece. I got into One Piece when I was in high school. You got into FF7 when you were in high school. That's in reverse. Yeah. Dude, that's so cool, actually. Yeah. That's actually super, super cool. Because I had that same thing, like I said earlier, with FF7, where it was just a continuous thing that as time went on, I started appreciating more stuff about this series. Then I actually took it really serious as a story until where I am right now, which I consider the original game an actual masterpiece that should be studied in like classes and stuff, because that's just how good the story is.
the only reason why like FF7 has been confused to me is like the remake project, because otherwise, okay, to be fair, if you grew up back in the day maybe with like Advent Children and like Crisis Core and some of the other games, it would have felt more continuous, right? But it's like, for me, it's like aside from like the remakes, there really wouldn't have been much reason to continue it. But with One Piece, instead, was just that thing was literally like there every week, you know. But I'm kind of curious to around which arc was One Piece when you like started, like back in high school?
So I know when I first discovered the series through 4Kids, whenever I was younger, it was, I think, in Japan starting Water 70's lobby. But of course I didn't know that. But whenever I finally got into it when I was in high school, it was during whenever I think the manga was going through the craziness of the Paramount War saga. Because whenever I was going through the anime, I was going absolutely ham until reached somewhere in Thriller Bark where I had to switch over to the manga, and that's it. So that's that was my experience with it. Where by the time I got caught up after the Paramount War saga greatness, I was like, oh man, like people have no idea how good this series is, dude. Like this is.
I had a similar experience because like I had like. I didn't know about the manga for like a bit because it was just a big thing around like the elementary school playground, but I only like really got into it like like around like Thriller Barks, Sabaody, that whole period like you. The only difference is that you were in high school. I was like in elementary school
Right,
still.
right.
But it's kind of like a thing. But it's like it's kind of funny. It's kind of it was still was like at the same time, but it's just different ages.
Different
but
ages.
It still like impacted me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I'm
that same
telling you,
way.
man, like experiencing One Piece at that time really was perfect because, like you said, with FF7 for you, that's what One Piece was for me. Where like it came into
Yeah.
my life at the perfect time, dude. Right where I did not
Yeah.
know what to do with my future. And after I experienced
Yeah.
the series, I was like, oh, I know what I want to do. I know exactly what I want
Yeah.
to do. Like it's that type of special experience.
And that's the thing is like I had the same thing with One Piece, but like the second coming, like I had it as a kid. But that's the thing as well. It's like as much as it impacted me, as much as I loved it as a kid, and as much as I realized it defined who I am as an adult, because it basically One Piece is like a second dad to me. To me, like it was especially the impact it had as a teenager, and when I decided to start making content, that it's like that point where it like impacted me the most.
Right.
And it's kind of like the whole thing why I kind of got into this thing and I kind of have this like this job I have today. It's because of that point as well. So it's just like I said, yeah, it's the thing that repeats itself. Even if I had it when I was a kid at that age, it was just,
Yeah.
and it was just, it's that experience that kind of keeps on growing on itself. And it's like with like remake and like FF7, like yeah, I didn't have that like part as a kid, but it still kind of keeps growing as a journey. Now in a sense as well, and I do think I probably will have some sense of finality once Reunion is out, unless they decide to keep milking the series.
Yeah, which they probably will.
Yeah,
Yeah, but at the
it's
very
like,
least, I do think when the third part comes out, even though there'll probably be like, I am fully expecting a playable Advent Children, like a remake of Dirge Service, all that. But I do think when that final game drops, that's the end of the remake trilogy. Like, there's going to be a finality point to it.
Obviously.
Then all the other spin-offs will be spin-offs. But I do think that'll be the end of the remake project, for sure.
Final Fantasy remake, next generation.
VR,
We're playing
the metaverse.
We're playing as Cloud's child, Bloud.
Yep, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Z.
I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I found it very difficult to like invest in a lot of the side content, but it's just to me, it's like it was just I think that's like an interesting thing for me. It's that to me, I don't care about Final Fantasy VII as a franchise. So like I don't think I even like own any FF7 merch or like specific things. For me, like I don't tackle it like a franchise. It's just an experience that changed my life.
Yeah, gotcha.
Whereas like with One Piece, like yeah, I do love it as a franchise in general and stuff more like that. But the FF7 is just what I like through the story, and that's why like with a lot of the extra content, it's just like I don't care much about seeing these characters in different settings because to me the whole point was those characters from the original experience. But obviously, at the same time, it's like, well, it's not a problem. Like none of these things existing hurt my experience from the original. So, like I mean, I didn't like Advent Children, but like. That's fine. It's completely disconnected from the original game, and if people enjoy it, I think that's like really great for them as well.
Right.
But I feel like remake is that thing where like it finally recaptured that feeling of the original properly. That like I feel like no other thing could.
Presenting it from my side, like the way that the way that I look at the FF7 franchise is like how Evangelion presents their franchise. Like they have their original game, franchise. Original series, and then there's the final movie, and there's the rebuild. That's exactly how I feel about and then there's the manga and all that. That's exactly how I feel about FF7. Where
I want to check out Evangelion sometime because here's the thing. Can I just say something about Evangelion? My own experience about it. I remember when the final true final movie came out.
Yeah.
And I remember I listened to the Hikaru Tada song. Without context, and it's just the thing. It's like. Without like this final song, without like any context, I can tell embodies the concept of finality.
Yes.
I felt
100%.
it. It's like, man, and it's like I felt so many emotions in that song, and it's like I actually want to kind of check this out someday because it's just that feeling of like, it's over, and there's some bittersweetness, but also some because it's the same thing I kind of felt about the song.
I love that franchise so much, and I feel like you'll definitely see the comparisons. You'll see the comparisons between that and FF7 in regards to.
I can imagine, yeah.
In regards to the original game, original TV
Especially
series,
the rebuilding,
and then there's the rebuilds.
Yeah.
But with the compilation project, I love them so much because Advent Children, for example, is like what could I compare it to? It's kind of like our collective thing that we had. I'll never forget when that movie first dropped.
Right. I mean, I feel like that's kind of like your first experience of like a remake, right? You always get to see these characters with this thing.
You get it.
Just getting to see them.
Exactly.
Just like,
That's
wow.
exactly right.
I mean, like, for me, visually, it was really cool. It's just I didn't like the story, and obviously, it came from the fact in 2015, I played the original game, I just watched this. It was just like a movie that kind of, I feel like the story didn't get the point of the original, and it was just like, kind of sit like that. But I feel like it's just one of those things where, like, I kind of get the, like, back in the day, Adventure was just like the thing.
It was,
just
bro.
Like, man, it's just cool.
It was the coolest thing in the world. Like,
that's the thing, coolest. That's probably the best way to put it. It is super cool.
It is so cool, dude.
The final battle between Cloud and Sephiroth. It was ultra stupid how they brought back Sephiroth narratively. Yep. I don't care. I thought that was just cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, like, that Crisis Core, these things that were like remakes before remakes, basically, is why I cherish them so much. But even the... So, like, there was the On the Way to a Smile novel that was released.
Right.
But there was also a fan-made fan project for On the Way to a Smile that added voice acting, OSTs. Oh. They did that for, like, so many different projects that I also experienced. That means so much to me. So, like, Traces of Two Paths. Fantastic novel.
I forgot. Yeah, there was like the novel. They gave it the Kingdom Hearts treatment, but like even more extreme.
It's that type of stuff that makes the compilation, for me at least, something that I've just enjoyed so much because it's more of the characters.
Are you into Kingdom Hearts?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
big fan.
I mean, I've played every game. I'm like fully lore caught up, and it's like it's a similar experience.
Right.
It's just like, man, it's. I mean, obviously, like I got into it in like 2018 as well, fairly late, but it is the type of thing where like obviously I didn't have to hunt down the games on like the PSP or whatever. Right. I was able to play through them in like on the PS4, but still it was like one experience. And even after that, I remember before Cage 3 came out, which was like really hype, it was like. By the way, there's the mobile game, and the lore of the mobile game is essential to understand Cage 3. People were like, nah, there's no way they're going to repeat the, Chain of Memories thing and force you to play a mobile game to play it. I was like, oh, guys, I watched the mobile game cutscenes on YouTube. Shout out to Everglow. Trust me, you need to. I was like, tell my friends, you need to watch the cutscenes because otherwise Cage 3 is not going to make sense. And it's just like, it was really funny seeing like people like reacting to the Kingdom Hearts trailer. Yeah. I was like, wow, who's this orange-haired girl? I was like, Strelitzia!
Yeah, right.
Oh, she's alive!
Legit. Dude, that is Rebirth in a nutshell. Like, I'll give you a quick example. There was a scene in right after you leave Junon and you get on the ship in Shinra 8. Aerith and Tifa have a conversation about like, oh, let's talk about boys.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Dude, that is Traces of Two Paths. Literally leading into it where I was like, oh my god! Oh man!
I was like, who the hell is this? And I Google it. Oh, it's from an exclusive like audiobook novel.
Yes.
Like, oh.
Yes, bro. Yeah. There's so many scenes. So that is what makes Kingdom Hearts so special, and also what made Rebirth so special. Because they captured that feeling so well, where if you invest time into all of these different things, you will get so much out of it. It's like, oh my god, it's this person, or this concept, or it's literally taking place after that, which is what Traces of Two Paths did. It's like, oh man.
This is like more of a personal like me thing, but it's like I feel like FF7 is the one story where like I can't value this as much because again, to me, like I feel like I think this is also like a problem I have with franchises in general, is that I find it difficult to invest in a franchise that has like multimedia.
Gotcha.
If it is worked on by like different people.
Gotcha.
Right? To like different extents. I think it's one of the problems, for example, like I'm not a big fan of it, but it's kind of the same thing I had with like Star Wars. Where it's like I checked out of it completely because I loved Star Wars, the original like movies, the original 6 movies, and I loved the Clone Wars, which was like the TV series that basically connected the whole story together.
Great TV series.
It was a great story. Yeah. everything else just kind of felt like they just add a new show and a new show, and it's just completely different stuff, and it's just that like I completely checked out of it because I felt disjointed. And sort of it with FF7, I feel because of the to me like I said, I don't invest so much into like FF7 as a franchise,
Right.
so I don't get this value as like you or other people do. I get it out of the story, so I prefer
sure.
to just focus on the story, and it's the same for the remakes as well.
For sure.
But with other franchises, I can like totally relate to this. With Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah.
I just love this.
Yeah.
And I with like One Piece, I love this, and I love the fact that even if it's in small ways, they pay off
Yep.
your investment in these games. One thing that I love, for example, is when video games tie like a franchise into a timeline. Like an official timeline, because it's the type of thing where in most games it's not obligatory.
Right.
You can still enjoy these games as an individual, but hey, if you know that Final Fantasy VII is actually a sequel to Final Fantasy X,
Yep.
that's really
It
cool.
hits different. And
It
bro,
has
there was a
value.
scene in this game that directly confirmed that. Like, directly confirmed. It was like, yo, this is crazy.
I recall that, but can you remind me which one it was?
Aerith does the Unidance from the original from Final
Yes,
Fantasy X.
dude.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
yes,
literally
I remember
picture
that.
perfect. She does the Unidance while doing it. I was like,
and
dude.
here's the thing, I was playing FF16, and there's just the moment where it just clicked in, and I was like, oh my god, Ultima, like the main bad guy of FF16,
Yep.
is the same race as Genova.
Great point, actually.
And yeah, and it's like these are taking place in the same universe.
Right.
Like straight up, there are these like celestial beings that are traveling between planets to consume planets.
Yeah.
And Genova got separated, ended up in FF7, and Ultima got separated, ended up in like FF16. It's like like getting that payoff between those games is just like really cool.
Yeah.
And I love that type of interconnectedness. You know, I think it's like what makes like Zelda games being connected so good as well.
Yes, dude. Have you ever played the Trails games?
I can imagine us late into this. No, but it's like, man, it's just one of those things where like the idea of it sounds so cool, but man, it's just
It's a lot.
it's that One Piece thing. Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's just hard to invest.
Trust me when I say, it is everything we're saying. If they were all contained within the games.
Yeah.
So there's no multimedia. There's nothing you have to watch. The games all lead into each. It's literally a long-running Shonen Jump series.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's my favorite franchise in gaming because of that. It's just.
Honestly,
if
it's
the
like-
opportunity presents itself ever, definitely do it, bro. I think it'd be up your alley for sure.
It's the thing, like, I would not read One Piece today if I had to start it blind. As much as I would want to, it's just I struggle to like commit to things long term.
Yep.
It's the same problem I have with FF14. I want to play
Gotcha.
FF14 so
Yep.
badly because everybody says it's the One Piece of gaming,
Yep.
but it's just like
Yep.
I feel like in my mind I'm like I want to beat it,
Yeah.
right? Which is like the wrong approach to it, and
Yep.
it's just difficult. Maybe someday I could, but
For sure.
you know, it's just the type of thing where like I do kind of wish that more video games felt like continuous stories. And I
too.
get that it's so much harder than other forms of media, but it's kind of what I love about Kingdom Hearts as well.
Yeah, me
You know, it's like it is this story that just builds up, and it's just by Kingdom Hearts. There are some character arcs, there are some things. It's just like, man,
like
it's just really nice to see it come to this point.
like Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm so excited for it because it feels like Return to Sabaody. You know, because it truly does.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man,
Yeah.
how are we gonna come back together again? Like it's gonna.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, man, it's just like such a journey, and like. God, there is nothing better to Kingdom Hearts game. Getting a new Kingdom Hearts game, getting to the end, you know, that post credits scene,
Yes,
bro.
every time,
Oh,
every
right,
single
bro.
game has a peak post credits.
Every time, it just like, nah, there's no way Nomura can surprise me anymore.
Yep.
And then Lucio takes the hood. I was like, what?
Yep. It's like, oh man.
Yo.
Yeah, no man.
And I was like, surely Kingdom Hearts 3 can't surprise me anymore. And the game ends. And like Sora wakes up and I was like, wait a second. I recognize these buildings. I've lived here.
Yep.
This is Shibuya.
Yep.
This is Shinjuku.
Yep.
This is real life.
Yep. And then you see
is
Master
my
of Masters there, and you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah. Dude, the Master of Masters is just like the best part of the whole story because it's just like I feel it's like, what is he cooking?
Yeah,
Does
man.
he know?
Yeah, man. And it's like the more we find out about him, he's like such a cool character in concept. Such a cool
And
idea.
I love that he just embodies the Kingdom Hearts spirit by just being so dumb.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's like, but he just carries that, right? He's just that guy who's like, haha, on the surface he's just really stupid, but like secretly he's just like controlling everyone behind the scenes, and I love it.
Exactly, it's so good.
And I love the fact it's just a black coat.
Yeah.
That's the character design.
And it's so amazing. It's so raw. Like,
To be fair, when I was playing Rebirth, and then like, what's his name? Like Glambrock?
yes. Yep.
Appears in a black coat. I was like, oh, Nomura!
It's the master of masters.
Nomura!
Dude, speaking of Rebirth, so like going through Rebirth, I couldn't help but think, especially when I went to Gongaga, I was like, the next Kingdom Hearts game is going to be incredible. Because if they take this region and zone concept, which originated from Kingdom Hearts, and they take the Rebirth treatment, I was like, oh man, Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to be insane. Like,
dude, I hope we get to see Cloud, Aerith, and the others in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Me too.
But we also got like some of the story aspects of Rebirth.
Yeah. I really hope we get to see Cloud in them again. In Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yeah.
For sure.
Dude, I love that at the end of like the Cloud quest line in Kingdom Hearts 2, there's like this moment where he says goodbye to Aerith.
Yeah.
And Aerith says it's like, okay, but like no matter how long it takes you to complete this journey, know that when you come back, I'll always be waiting for you. I'm like, man, that's like the end.
It's the end of Rebirth? Yeah. It's like, oh man. They get it, man. They get it. They just get it.
It's that magic like that Square has. It's like a thing. It's like I've heard a lot of people, which I think this is a very valid criticism, that the PS5 isn't a very worth investment because there aren't many unique titles for it. And it's true. There's like 15 exclusives.
Right.
That's it. Right.
Right.
But as a Final Fantasy fan, like man, I love this console.
Me too. No, me too, dude.
This is my Final Fantasy machine.
Yeah, right. Same here. It's like this is my JRPG machine. It's kind of like back on the PS1. The PS1 was a JRPG machine. That's the PS5.
Exactly. I mean, like I got Octopath, I got FF60, I got FF7 Rebirth, I got like Persona 3 Reload now as well.
Yep. The Yakuza games are on here. It's like, come on, man. A lot of great JRPGs. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is on here. Honkai Star Rail. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Have you played Relink or?
Yeah, I played. I played. I think I got to chapter 3 or 4 in Relink before Reload came out, and
right.
And I was playing Infinite Wealth as well, so I was like, I'm pushing this to the side. I'm pushing Relink to the side. I need to go back to it.
So. I mean, like the thing it's like the great thing about Relink is that the story's like 10-20 hours.
Right. That's what I've heard.
It's such a digestible game, and everything else after that is like the online campaign, but it's like you can play like as far as you want. And I had some friends who were playing the game, like Ramble Relink on like online. I was like, man, this is fun. This is like really fun with like friends. It's so much fun.
I've heard it's like Monster Hunter Online, where it's just like a blast.
Basically, yeah. You just do quests and you just keep like upgrading your character. I mean, hey, if you want to play Granblue Online someday,
I'll let you know.
I got a fully maxed
I'll definitely
character.
let you know. Speaking of games, doesn't Roger drop today? On
sorry,
doesn't Roger Garp and Pirate Warriors? Don't they come out today? The DLC.
I checked out of Pirate Warriors.
You checked out? Okay, yeah. They made a Roger playable.
I saw.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually like I think it's like a series first. Yeah. Here's the thing. Like Pirate Warriors 4 is like the Smash Ultimate of like One Piece.
It is.
I love that. Yeah. I just find the core game so boring.
No, I understand.
I think that Warriors is already tedious by itself.
Yeah.
And I feel like I also here's the thing. I got Pirate Warriors for the Switch.
Okay.
Because I got the review code, and that was the one that they gave me, and it runs like garbage to Switch.
Oh man!
Like it makes Pokemon look like a PS5 game straight up.
Wow!
it is bad.
Goodness.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's I still enjoyed it, but it's the type of thing like after with all the DLC, I kind of just checked out.
For sure. No, I understand. Trust me, like there's just so many things to play, bro, and experience.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah, so much pain.
So
can I show just this?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
Is this the Switch version?
Oh my gosh! What am I looking at?
Oh, this is the. Like it runs at like 480p. That's
insane.
The C texture.
What is this?
Yeah, it's that's like an actual cutscene.
It's like a Game Boy Advance port of a PS5 game. This is nuts.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But seriously, yeah, we're in such a good time for like video games.
Yeah, dude. It's actually insane. Like here in this year and next year, now that we're counting down the end of the generations for all three, they're really pulling at all the stops, and we're getting a lot of great games. So
we're probably gonna get like a new Switch like next year, so that's probably gonna be where like Nintendo's gonna fall. Yeah, because like Nintendo isn't doing much this year, but it's like, you know what? That's fine. We need like a bit of space for like the JRPG gang.
Right. Yep.
The fact that we got like Granblue, Persona, and like Yakuza
FF7
like, like back to back,
all back to back,
like a moth is crazy,
And then
like I mean, I don't play Yakuza, but it's like Jesus Christ, that's such an incredible lineup.
It's insane. And then right after that, for the individuals who like Dragon's Dogma, and then after that Stellar Blade, it's like it's just banger. It's insane.
It kind of reminds me a bit of like last year as well, where we had like Fire Emblem Engage, then we had like Octopath Traveler 2, then there was Tears of the Kingdom, then there was Final Fantasy 16. I was like, oh my god,
so many games back to back. It's like in 2017 when we had Yakuza 0, Persona 5, Breath of the Wild, Horizon. It was just crazy. Nier Automata. It was back to back.
I mean, like I wanted to play through like Persona 3 Reload, but I was like, you know what, like, let me leave it for later, because like I don't want to like try to eat too much now and get like, you know, like food poisoning or like indigestion, but then I'm like starving, you know, like let me space this out. And oh my god, we got 1,000 Year Door in May
23rd. It's gonna be.
And you know what's the thing? I love Paper Mario. I've never played 1,000 Year Door.
Ooh, you're in for a good experience, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I really enjoyed Color Splash. I think the combat is garbage, but I think the rest of the game is so good.
Right.
And I loved Origami King.
Oh, see, I haven't played Origami King yet. I gotta play it.
Dude, Origami King is peak. Yeah. It's amazing.
I gotta play it.
Like, it's actually it has that One Piece magic to it. It's so charming.
So you're selling me on
it. It has like that charm that Paper Mario has it, but like even better.
Right.
It's so good.
Right.
Because, you know, like, obviously, like, Sticker Star, people didn't like it because it was a bit of a mess. And then Color Splash improved so much on Sticker Star, but the combat was still messy and it had some problems. And Origami King is just, it's just good. It's just as good as the classic games. But the thing that I kept, like, people keep telling me is, like, 1,000 Year Door is the GOAT. And I've never played it because it's, you know, it's so hard to track down a copy.
Right.
And if we finally get a remaster, it's like, man, I will be there. No matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So as we wind down here, I just wanted to get just a final takeaway here for Rebirth.
It's like
for
FF7,
gaming.
like,
right? It's like
it's like FF7, man. I don't want it to end.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been a fantastic time, dude. I really appreciate you being here with me. It's just a final takeaway on any games that you would recommend, and then as far as Rebirth goes, like a favorite character moment that stood out to you from this game. Just let me know, bro.
I mean, in terms of recommendations, like I already said, like my go-to recommendation at the moment is Octopath 2, because that was just like a game that blew me away. Triangle Strategy is such a great game as well. I mean, like in terms of like other great games I've played recently, you've probably played them all already. Elden Ring, FF16, those are like the games that kind of stick for me with from the last few years. So many good experiences, man. In terms of one moment, like stuff from me, bro, you want me to like re-narrate the whole game?
It's the egghead thing all over again.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to think. It's like if there's literally anything that I can narrow this down to, but like if there's anything that I missed, but it's just like, you know, like obviously like the initial area of like the grasslands was fun, but it's obviously just an opener like in the original game.
Right.
No one says their favorite part of the original game was the Chocobo farm, right? Or like the Mithril Mine makes sense, but it opens that and it's just Junon was so incredible.
Yeah.
Like the music in June and the whole experience on top, and then Costa del Sol was incredible. And then like doing the theme of Mount Coral.
Yeah, dude,
is my favorite track of the game. I think
so good.
That music track is so good. Going through the Gold Saucer, and getting the date with Aerith right away on the first like time, like actually not having to wait until the return, and getting to see the Gold Saucer on the inside like that, and then going down to Coral Prison, the way they adapted and dying, dude, that was incredible. And then go Gaga, and then Cosmo Canyon, and then Nibelheim, then go back to the Gold Saucer and the ending. Like, wow,
Generational.
what an experience.
Peak fiction.
Generational, legitimately, and it's like, and I like I said, like I think the best thing, that I can say is just like the best thing that like Rebirth has done is remind me why I'm so grateful to be living this life, man. It's like why I'm so grateful to be experiencing these emotions and why this means so much to me, you know, and be able to feel that so vividly to me is a better proof than anything that it does perfectly recapture what the whole point of the original FF7 was, that,
Right.
you know, life is meant to be fun.
No, man.
I love that so much.
Beautiful. Very well
This
said.
game is so much,
It's
man.
so good. It's peak. It's peak.
It's big fictional, big goat, raw fire,
right.
masterpiece,
right.
generational, historical.
That's
there are
right.
not enough words in the
Tell
vocabulary.
you, man. Put it in the rafters. It's a Hall of Famer. It's a Gear 5 level game. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely peak.
I had a joke. With some friends where we just literally just spam like Goaty. I'm looking at Goaty right now, bro.
Literally. Like, bro,
Yeah.
from the moment that I entered the Grasslands, even when I was in Calm, I was like, nothing is beating this as my game of the year. Nothing. I hadn't even reached the best parts of the game, and I was like, I saw Calm for the first time. I heard the music play, and I was like, 50 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
I think I even wrote to you that
You
like,
did.
I started tearing up
Yeah,
when
you
I
did.
first had to go. And the thing I remember, like, obviously, like, here's the thing: the first hours going into Rebirth, I was just worried. I was like, can this even be like the game of the year? Do I even want to do this? You know, like I was so emotionally conflicted that it's like, man, I just didn't even know. I was just like playing it for the best time. It's Goaty.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm looking at Goaty, bro. It's Goaty.
Sorry for ever doubting you.
Automatically.
Goaty.
Yeah. No, seriously, and this, you know what? I feel that almost kind of ironically perfectly encapsulates the themes of the game, because FF7 is a story about like doubting that things are gonna go wrong, but
Right.
then in the end everything is gonna work out, and that's what this became.
Right.
4 years of me worrying, but they got it all along. They nailed it.
They nailed it.
And it's like, man, it was almost silly to worry all along because everything is gonna be alright. I love that.
Dude, once again, it was a pleasure to have you. This is part 1.
It was a pleasure to be here.
No, man, thank you, dude. Like, I know we were setting this up for a while, and I've wanted to have you on the channel for a long time. Hopefully next time.
Yeah, as well. Like honestly, I'm glad that we finally got to talk like one-on-one for the first time, because I know we had the rivalry, but
Right.
still,
Right. Next time,
it's just
next time when I have you on the channel, it'll be for One Piece, and we'll talk about the greatness there. But yeah, so this is gonna be part 1 of our FF7 coverage here. Part 2 will be coming next week with me and AJ Alexander. So look forward to that. I have
the summon.
I have double A's on the channel, Artur and AJ for FF7 coverage. So have you experienced any of AJ's stuff? He's currently catching up to One Piece, Artur. Have you seen any of his stuff?
Yeah, I'm not completely sure, but like I think I would probably get a better idea if you show me like his profile picture. Or whatever.
He has the Xenoblade icon as his profile picture on.
Can you look me directly? Because I struggle to remember people by names.
Oh, okay, I got
is
you.
the thing. I'm much more of a
Let me see.
of a face person. So
Okay, yeah, I'll show it to you off air, but yeah, man. Like once again, thank you so much for being here. This was
thank you for having me here. I'm like legitimately.
yeah.
Not even saying out of like the obligatory like thank you for having me and stuff. I was like no, legit, it was so much fun.
Yeah, man. It's like I said, we've been holding this in for so long that it just felt so good to talk about Pete.
Yeah.
You know, it just felt so good. But yeah, man.
Just literally 3 hours of us just like gushing
Yeah.
about just like man,
About this great
like,
game.
yo, the moment, yo,
Yep.
yo, they had the NPC.
That's
the
right.
thing.
That's right. That's right. That and that's what it should be, right? Like it's like, come on, what a beautiful experience. But yeah, yo, I hope everybody has an awesome day. If you have listened to it this far and not played FF7, do yourself a favor and play such a great game. Like, what's wrong with you, dude? Play the game and experience Remake and Rebirth. But until next time, y'all have a good one. Take care, and I'll see y'all in the next One Piece chapter.
See ya.